Beetlejuice TV series, 1989 to 1991. Have you ever had a ghost as a friend? No, not really. Well, that is too bad. But our charming Lydia Dietz has this ghost. And it's not just any ghost, you know? We're talking about Beetlejuice. You know, the one with the striped suit, crazy hair, and a personality that's just as vibrant as the afterlife. Step into the wonderfully weird world of Beetlejuice, the animated series, 1989 to 1991, where creepy and kooky come together in the most surprising ways. Based, very loosely, on Tim Burton's hit 1988 film, the cartoon took the eerie charm of the original and flipped it into a kid-friendly roller coaster through the Neither World. While the first 3 seasons were relatively short and snappy, the longer and final season aired on the Fox network. Whether you're a long-time fan who remembers tuning in with a bowl of cereal, or you're just now discovering that Beetlejuice, this series is a perfect mix of humour, heart, and supernatural weirdness, especially with its crazy idioms and pop cultural references, starting from Shakespeare and even stretching to Titanic. Let's unearth the charm, chaos, and cartoon genius of this spooky 90s classic. But heads up, you're going to see a ton of stripes. If you appreciate our content, do hit the like button and subscribe to Marvelous Cartoons for more.
And who can forget Beatlemania?
Season 1, 1989, Episode 1. Lydia marks the first anniversary of meeting Beetlejuice, a milestone filled with wild memories and even wilder adventures. To celebrate, she picks up a babysitting job for a sweet little boy named Arnlo. Not wanting to be left out or to miss the chance to impress Lydia, Beetlejuice decides to help by taking on a babysitting gig of his own. But true to form, his charges are far from ordinary. A rowdy bunch of mischievous Neitherworld babies. Things quickly spiral out of control. In a typical Beetlejuice blunder, he accidentally shrinks himself down to baby size, making him more of a handful than a helper. The chaos drags Lydia and Arnlo into the Neitherworld's bizarre and unpredictable, shocking mall, where shopping carts bite and toys have minds of their own. Despite the mayhem, Lydia keeps her cool. She manages to trick the baby-sized Beetlejuice into saying his magical incantation, restoring him to his adult self just in time. But before they can escape, Beetlejuice is dragged off to Neither Court, where the stern and theatrical judgmental declares him guilty of magical misconduct. Just when all seems lost, Lydia and the rambunctious babies rally to his defense. Their unexpected antics and Lydia's heartfelt determination tip the scales. The judge reconsiders and clears Beetlejuice of all charges. Back in the Neither World, the trouble fades and the laughter returns. With the day saved and their friendship stronger than ever, Beetlejuice and Lydia celebrate the strange, sweet bond they've built.
That's just who I am.
Episode 2. Lydia and Beetlejuice dive headfirst into the Neither World's wildest game show, the 24-hour gross-off, where being disgusting is the name of the game. Facing off against the reigning champions, they tackle a series of hilariously revolting challenges, from slime swimming to muck sucking, with gleeful determination. The final round, Funny Faces, pushes them to their limit. Beetlejuice seals their victory with a grotesquely exaggerated impression of Lydia's uptight dad, Charles Dietz, earning top marks for creativity and creepiness. But the celebration is short-lived. On a chaotic night, Beetlejuice's closet explodes in a shower of skeletons, literal manifestations of his hidden lies. As they rattle out of hiding, so do secrets he's been avoiding. It's messy, awkward, and uncomfortably honest. Lydia doesn't flinch. Instead, she helps him confront the truth with something real. Her unwavering friendship, her simple confession that he's her best friend, is enough to quiet the chaos. The skeletons dissolve and the room settles. Inspired, Lydia opens up too, revealing that she'd secretly been hiding a skunk named Stinky. Together, they return the little creature to its home, sharing a moment of quiet understanding. Episode 3. Lydia frets over which photo to submit for her school exhibition, poring over her collection with care. Beetlejuice tries to help, claiming he'll buy whichever one she chooses, though he clearly can't afford it. Meanwhile, chaos brews in the Dietz's kitchen, when a leaking sink turns into a full-blown plumbing disaster. Eager to impress and fix things his way, Beetlejuice transforms into Mr. Beetleman and summons an unruly crew of sentient tools from the Neitherworld hardware store. What was meant to be a repair job quickly spirals into pandemonium as a wild wrench, hyper jackhammer, commanding drill sergeant, and others tear through pipes, flood the kitchen, and nearly destroy the house. Lydia steps in and, thinking fast, whistles the tools back into their toolbox just as their shift ends. With order restored and the kitchen sparkling, she surprises Beetlejuice by gifting him her final photo choice. The tools rattle ominously in their box, hinting they might return. Later, after Beetlejuice ruins Delia's spaghetti dinner by slipping worms into the sauce, Lydia grounds him. Hurt, he sulks in the Neitherworld and can't stop thinking about her, literally. His obsession pulls Lydia into the maze of his mind, where she encounters his timid willpower and prank-happy alter ego, Frankenstein. With Will's help, Lydia faces Frankenstein head-on. By chanting "out of sight, out of mind," they break the hold of the prank and eject her from his mind. Back home, Beetlejuice can't bring himself to say sorry, but shows genuine remorse. Lydia forgives him, and they share a worm-free spaghetti dinner. Episode 4. Lydia eagerly auditions for Romeo and Juliet at Miss Shannon's school, only to find herself pitted against her rival, Claire Brewster. Just as Lydia steps onto the stage, Claire sabotages her performance by releasing spiders and a beehive, causing a panic that ruins Lydia's shot at the lead role. Though disappointed, Lydia refuses to back down. Channeling her creativity, she signs on as the play's costume designer, determined to leave her mark and serve a little payback. Beetlejuice, always ready to stir up mischief, tries to meddle in Lydia's revenge, but winds up banished to the Neitherworld. On opening night, however, Lydia summons him back. With a sly plan in place, Beetlejuice possesses Claire, transforming her performance into an over-the-top, monstrous spectacle thanks to Lydia's outlandish costume. The audience is stunned, then delighted. What was meant to be a disaster becomes an unexpected hit, turning Lydia's misfortune into a theatrical triumph. Meanwhile, Lydia faces a personal blow when she learns that her beloved old oak tree, affectionately named Spooky, is set to be removed to make way for road construction. Hoping to save it, Beetlejuice gives Spooky the ability to walk, but the enchanted tree goes rogue, stomping through peaceful pines and sending the town into chaos. Lydia and Beetlejuice race to stop their runaway friend before disaster strikes. In the end, they calm Spooky and find a way to preserve the tree and the neighborhood's charm. Episode 5. Lydia feels invisible when Claire Brewster hosts the most talked-about Halloween party in Peaceful Pines. Determined to prove herself, Lydia decides to throw a bash of her own, but things quickly unravel. Her parents stick her in a cringe-worthy pink bunny costume. There's no food or decorations, and, worst of all, no one shows up. Sensing her frustration, Beetlejuice jumps in to help. Disguised as the overly confident Mr. Beetleman, he sells the Dietzes a mysterious Neitherworld party kit labelled "Party People" in a can. Lydia swaps the bunny suit for a fierce wolf costume, reclaiming her confidence just in time for guests to arrive. It finally seems like things are turning around, but when the can is opened, the celebration takes a chaotic turn. Monsters burst out and take over, turning the party into a spooky free-for-all. Decorations come to life, snacks go rogue, and the guests are both thrilled and terrified. With quick thinking and teamwork, Lydia and Beetlejuice manage to wrangle the wild creatures back into the can. They return the kit to the Neitherworld, but the mess left behind is legendary. Despite the chaos, Lydia's party ends up being unforgettable, for all the right spooky reasons, of course. Episode 6. When Beetlejuice gets into a scuffle with a newly hatched baby sandworm in the Neitherworld, Lydia accidentally summons him mid-chaos, transporting both him and the wriggling creature into the real world. In the confusion, the baby sandworm slips away, and the townspeople, unaware of what really happened, mistake Beetlejuice for a brave protector who vanquished some unseen menace. Beetlejuice basks in the attention, enjoying his new status as a local hero, but the celebration is short-lived. The baby sandworm is still out there, and now it's being targeted by two ruthless hunters determined to capture it. Though Beetlejuice has always despised sandworms, Lydia convinces him that the creature, scared and alone, deserves a chance. Now stuck between protecting a creature he can't stand, maintaining the heroic image he never expected to earn, and keeping Lydia's trust, Beetlejuice faces a challenge unlike any before. Reluctantly, he rises to the occasion. In the end, Beetlejuice finds himself doing the right thing, whether he likes it or not. Against all odds, he helps save the baby sandworm and proves that, even for a mischievous ghoul like him, heroism might just come in the most unexpected forms.
One doggy bag, ready to go.
Episode 7. Beetlejuice's outrageous behaviour finally pushes his neighbours in Peaceful Pines too far. They band together and evict him. Stung but undeterred, Beetlejuice vows to win them back by becoming the perfect neighbour. Unfortunately, his idea of helpfulness is anything but. From orchestrating unsolicited lawn makeovers to overzealous mail deliveries involving actual flying stamps, his good intentions spiral into absurdity. The more he tries to impress, the more chaos he causes. Burst pipes, airborne pets, and an impromptu block party featuring a ghostly polka band don't exactly earn their appreciation. Rather than winning hearts, his antics only deepen their frustration, leaving Beetlejuice with a bruised ego and a hard-earned lesson. Being a good neighbour means more listening and less showboating. Later, disguised as the overly enthusiastic Betty Juice, he invites Lydia and her friends Bertha and Prudence on a weekend camping trip deep into the spooky Netherwoods. He promises nature and fun, but delivers weirdness and mayhem. From haunted hammocks to ghostly wildlife, everything is infused with Beetlejuice's signature flair. While Lydia rolls with the strange surprises, Bertha and Prudence, less familiar with the Netherworld's oddities, are overwhelmed. Creepy trees that whisper, glowing marshmallows, and spooky campfire tales send them into a flurry of panic and disbelief. Despite the mishaps, the trip becomes a bizarre and hilarious bonding experience. In true Beetlejuice fashion, nothing goes as planned, but by the end, the girls walk away with wild stories, a few laughs, and a new appreciation for the unpredictable charm that only he can bring. Episode 8. During a Wild West movie night, Beetlejuice gets carried away, literally whisking Lydia into Scarizona, a dusty frontier town deep in the Netherworld. No sooner do they arrive than he's declared sheriff, thanks to a combination of bravado and accidental heroics. Lydia plays along, amused at first, but things take a serious turn when the notorious outlaw Bully the Crud shows up. With a sneer and a sinister plan, Bully kidnaps Lydia, intent on forcing her into a ridiculous wedding she wants no part of. Beetlejuice, jolted out of his usual antics by a glimpse of Lydia in his warped crystal ball, sets off on a rescue mission. Though he's more familiar with showboating than saving, genuine concern drives him across the ghostly gulch to Boot Hill for a showdown. What follows is a chaotic face-off filled with cackling tumbleweeds, exploding spurs, and Beetlejuice's last-minute plan involving an absurdly slippery bottle of barbecue sauce. Against all odds, and mostly thanks to slapstick luck, he defeats Bully and frees Lydia. The town erupts in celebration, but Beetlejuice, dusty and worn out, decides he's had enough of frontier justice. He tosses his sheriff's badge aside with theatrical flair, hopping onto his grumpy talking horse. As they ride off into the surreal sunset, the pair bicker the whole way, arguing over directions and who really saved the day. It's a Wild West escapade only Beetlejuice could pull off, ridiculous, reckless, and oddly endearing in the end. Episode 9. During the school's annual bazaar, Miss Shannon unexpectedly pairs Lydia with her longtime rival, Claire, to co-run the haunted house. Determined to make it shine, Lydia enlists Beetlejuice's help, channeling spooky creativity from the Netherworld. Claire, however, pushes for a tired damsel in distress theme, insisting it's what people want. The two clash over ideas, and when Lydia finally leaves for the night, Claire secretly sabotages her eerie setup. By morning, Claire unveils her shallow, drama-heavy version of the haunted house. Plastic cobwebs, cheap jump scares, and no real spirit. Outraged, Beetlejuice retaliates by turning the attraction into a swirling madhouse of neither-world oddities. It's thrilling, terrifying, and on the verge of a full meltdown. Lydia is forced to banish him to keep things from spiraling out of control. But with the crowd losing interest in Claire's bland display, Lydia reluctantly calls Beetlejuice back, this time with boundaries. With just enough mayhem to keep it fun, he revamps the haunt, shifting walls, eerie illusions, and a perfectly timed sandworm scare. Guests are wowed. Claire, overwhelmed and humiliated, flees her own attraction. Lydia's eerie, atmospheric house becomes the hit of the bazaar. Later, as Lydia soaks in the praise, Beetlejuice sulks, grumbling that he never gets a pat on the back. Cue the arrival of a literal, pint-sized creature named Pat, sprouting from his shoulder and constantly cheering him on. Emboldened, Beetlejuice launches a ridiculous hair tonic scheme for bald neither-worlders, forcing Lydia once again to clean up the mess.
Like this. It's the pin! Oh yeah!
Episode 10. When the monster across the street heads off to a convention, he entrusts his beloved dog, Poopsie, to Beetlejuice. Eager for the challenge and attention, Beetlejuice accepts without hesitation, but pet-sitting quickly spirals into chaos as Poopsie, an energetic whirlwind of fur and fangs, tears through the neither world. Beetlejuice's misguided efforts to train her only fuel the madness. Furniture walks off, neighbours flee, and not even his usual tricks can contain the canine chaos. Just when things seem beyond saving, Lydia steps in, helping to wrangle Poopsie and restore a bit of order. Together, they manage to calm the dog just in time for the monster's return. While Poopsie is happily reunited with her owner, the signs of Beetlejuice's disastrous babysitting, cratered lawns, upside-down fences, and howling mailboxes tell a different story. Not long after, Beetlejuice stumbles upon a bizarre new talent, playing perfect melodies through armpit fart noises. Delighted, he forms a band called Flubbo, recruiting Lydia, Jacques, and Ginger to back him. Their oddball performances quickly gain popularity, leading to a major show at the Grand Hollyweird Bowl. But as the spotlight grows, so does Beetlejuice's ego. Fame turns him selfish and dismissive, pushing his friends aside in favour of solo stardom. At the height of his arrogance, his head literally inflates with pride, floating high above the stage while his abandoned bandmates shiver below. Lydia's disappointment is clear. In the end, Beetlejuice is forced to reckon with the cost of his antics, realising that friendship matters more than applause. Episode 11. Prince Vince of the Neitherworld arrives grandly and quickly becomes smitten with Lydia. Desperate to win her over, he turns to Beetlejuice for help. Flattered and eager to elevate his own status, Beetlejuice agrees, on the condition that he be named Vince's official court jester. With that title secured, he sets about coaching the prince on how to charm Lydia, tossing in exaggerated advice and theatrical flourishes to help Vince stand out. At first, it's all fun for Beetlejuice. He sees himself as the puppet master, guiding the clumsy royal, and imagining Lydia impressed by his generosity. But things shift when Vince's awkward efforts begin to work. To Beetlejuice's dismay, Lydia genuinely warms to the prince's oddball sincerity and regal quirks. What began as a game starts to sting, jealousy creeps in, and Beetlejuice finds himself resenting the very plan he set in motion. Unable to hide his frustration, he suddenly withdraws his support, abandoning Vince mid-courtship. Left on his own, the prince fumbles to maintain Lydia's interest, while Beetlejuice sulks in the shadows, stewing in wounded pride. His attempts to brush it off with bluster don't hide the truth. He'd hoped to impress Lydia himself, not lose her attention entirely. In the end, while no hearts are truly broken, Beetlejuice is left confronting feelings he hadn't expected. Behind the antics and jokes, it's clear that even in the Neitherworld, emotions aren't so easy to bury. Episode 12. When a band of mischievous headhunters literally makes off with Beetlejuice's head, all pandemonium breaks loose. Left with only his animated, headless body, Beetlejuice must rely on Lydia and the ever-befuddled Captain Kidder to help track it down. The unlikely trio sets off on a wild chase through the most bizarre corners of the Neitherworld, where the landscape changes with every step and nothing follows the rules of logic. Without his head, Beetlejuice's powers begin to flicker, leaving him unusually helpless and cranky. Lydia and Captain Kidder step up, leading the charge as they follow a trail of oddball clues to a creepy, fog-shrouded spot called Nobody Atoll. It's there that they find the stolen skull, perched atop a throne and being worshipped by the headhunters as their new guru. What follows is a chaotic but hilarious showdown, complete with slapstick stumbles, supernatural glitches, and Kidder's accidental heroics. Eventually, they retrieve Beetlejuice's head, and the moment it's back in place, his usual antics kick in, louder and weirder than ever. With the gang reunited and the absurdity behind them, for now, they laugh off the madness and head home. Just another day in the Neitherworld.
Bugs! Locusts!
Dessert!
Episode 13. When Lydia's painfully dull extended family, Aunt Zipporah, Uncle Damport, Aunt May, and Uncle Clyde arrive for dinner. She knows it's going to be a long night. Desperate for entertainment, she bribes Beetlejuice into helping. Eager for some mischief, he disguises himself as the eccentric Cousin BJ and dives into the chaos. First, he spices up Uncle Clyde's lifeless ventriloquist act, turning it into a bizarre comedy hit. Then he targets the ever-snooty Aunt Zipporah, giving her a spontaneous, outrageous makeover that surprisingly wins over her stuffy husband. At the dinner table, Beetlejuice pulls out all the stops, persuading the guests to kick off a wild, impromptu dance party. The family twirls and grooves, utterly bewildered by their own sudden rhythm. But just as things peak, Lydia breaks the spell by pointing out the ghostly influence. The magic fizzles, leaving the relatives dazed and disoriented. Lydia can't help but be amused, and Beetlejuice, of course, considers the night a smashing success. Later, Beetlejuice faces an awkward family reunion of his own when Lydia insists they visit his fastidious mother, Bee, and stern, businesslike father, Nat, in the Neitherworld. Bee's obsession with spotless order clashes with Beetlejuice's chaotic nature, while Nat constantly lectures him on responsibility. Lydia tries to keep the peace, but Beetlejuice's antics soon reach their limit. Still, as tensions settle, he manages to see the odd charm in his parents' quirks. With a rare moment of restraint, he earns their grudging approval, and the trio returns to the mortal world, relations intact, if slightly frayed.
Open water! No way!
Season 2, 1990, Episode 1. Beetlejuice and Lydia stumble upon a rusted old car frame in a twisted corner of the Neitherworld junkyard and decide to rebuild it into something special. Naming their creation Doomy, the duo dives into the bizarre world of Neitherworld mechanics. Beetlejuice, ever the enthusiast for weird and wild add-ons, installs a strange, glowing carburetor he borrowed from a forgotten crypt. At first, everything runs like a dream. Doomy glides over terrain, purrs like a possessed kitten, and even handles the wacky roads of the Neitherworld with ease. Lydia is thrilled, and Beetlejuice basks in the glow of his mechanical genius. But it doesn't take long for things to go sideways. Doomy begins to act strangely, revving up on its own, swerving without warning, and growling ominously whenever a Neitherworld dog appears. One eerie evening, that very trigger sparks a horrifying change. The strange carburetor pulses to life, transforming Doomy into the dragster of Doom, a monstrous chrome-armoured beast with glowing eyes, razor-toothed grills, and an engine that screams like a banshee. Lydia and Beetlejuice scramble to stop their creation before it levels half the Neitherworld. Through quick thinking and a risky manoeuvre involving ghost goo and reverse polarity, they manage to subdue the beast and revert Doomy to its original form. With the danger past, the duo shares a breathless laugh. Doomy sits quietly, for now, but knowing the Neitherworld, it's only a matter of time before their next wild ride begins.
Wow, right, hypnotize this herd of clothes horses.
Episode 2. In the Neitherworld, Scary Falls Day is the perfect excuse for mayhem, and Beetlejuice and Lydia waste no time diving into a prank-off to determine who reigns as the ultimate Frightmeister. From eerie illusions to creepy conjurings, each tries to outscare the other with increasingly elaborate tricks. The competition escalates fast, turning into a battle of wits and weirdness. But things take an unexpected turn when a mischievous sandworm slithers into the scene, drawn by the commotion. It begins gobbling up their props, disrupting their gags, and throwing their showdown into chaos. With the sandworm on a rampage, Lydia and Beetlejuice are forced to pause their antics and team up. Combining their scare skills, they manage to wrangle the creature and restore a little order to the holiday madness. In the end, both admit that their scares pack more punch when they work together. Back in the real world, Lydia and her friends open a goth fashion boutique in Peaceful Pines Mondo Mall, hoping their bold, eerie aesthetic will catch on. But foot traffic is slow and their earnings barely cover a soda. Sensing a need for drastic measures, Beetlejuice dons his Mr. Beetleman persona and produces a hypnotic TV ad designed to lure customers. At first, it works. Too well. The boutique is soon overrun with entranced shoppers acting increasingly bizarre. The situation spirals fast, and Lydia and Beetlejuice must scramble once again, this time to undo the chaos and return the mall to normal. Episode 3. Beetlejuice, Lydia, and their trusty car Doomy are fired up to enter the high-speed, neither-world Grand Prix, a wild and wacky race filled with eccentric competitors and unpredictable obstacles. Excitement quickly turns to frustration when the event's shady organisers unveil a new rule: no Beetlejuicing. If Beetlejuice uses any of his signature supernatural tricks, he and Lydia will be disqualified on the spot. To make matters worse, notorious rival clowns Scuzzo and Fuzzo are also in the race, and fully intent on cheating their way to victory. From tampering with tyres to planting traps along the track, the duo pulls every dirty trick they can think of. With Beetlejuice's powers off limits, he's forced to get creative and rely on quick thinking instead of magic. Lydia takes the lead in strategizing, while Doomy powers through obstacles with gritty determination. As the chaos mounts, Lydia and Beetlejuice uncover the clown's schemes and work together to turn the tables. With clever teamwork and a few surprise maneuvers, they expose the cheating and reclaim their place in the race. In the end, it's not just about crossing the finish line, it's about proving that brains, trust, and a little neither-world grit can outpace even the dirtiest racers. Episode 4. Beetlejuice is crushed when he learns that Lydia's parents, Charles and Delia, are heading off on their summer vacation without him. Unwilling to be left behind, he hatches a plan to stay close by, transforming into Mr. Beetleman, an overly confident, oddly charming tour guide. Before the Dietzes can say no, they find themselves swept into a whirlwind vacation through the neither world. At first, the journey is a bizarre thrill: haunted hotels with ghostly room service, sandworm safaris, and theme parks where the rides really bite. Lydia, used to Beetlejuice's antics, enjoys the supernatural twist, but for Charles and Delia, it's a sensory overload. Beetlejuice's non-stop stunts and spooky surprises quickly turn their relaxing getaway into a chaotic circus. As the trip spirals further out of control, tensions rise, and Beetlejuice realizes his efforts to impress have backfired. Lydia, seeing both sides unraveling, steps in to smooth things over. With a little compromise and a reminder that vacations are about time together, not tricks, she helps bring some calm to the madness. As the day closes, Beetlejuice learns that genuine connection matters more than spectacle, especially when it comes to the people who matter most. Episode 5. Lydia decides to celebrate Halloween in the neither world, bringing along her ever-curious cat, Percy. But the spooky holiday takes a sharp turn when Percy is snatched mid-journey by a coven of witches on their way to the Grand Witches' Ball. Horrified but determined, Lydia teams up with Beetlejuice to get him back. To infiltrate the witches' eerie domain, the duo dons magical disguises and dives headfirst into chaos. From dodging bewitched brooms to navigating enchanted traps, the path is as unpredictable as it is dangerous. Beetlejuice, true to form, creates a whirlwind of supernatural mischief, throwing the witches off their rhythm with a mix of bold antics and bizarre trickery. Lydia, grounded and gutsy, keeps them on track and pushes through even when the odds seem stacked against them. Together, Their mix of brains, bravado, and a touch of gross-out magic proves just enough to outwit the coven. They snatch Percy from his gilded cage and make a wild dash for freedom. With the witches left reeling, the trio returns to Peaceful Pines just in time, mud-splattered, spell-dusted, and laughing for Halloween night, ready to enjoy the fun the right way. Together, Episode 6. Beetlejuice invents a bizarre new cologne that turns anyone it touches into their total opposite. Things go haywire when Lydia accidentally gets sprayed. Her usual thoughtful, grounded self gives way to a wild, prank-loving troublemaker who leaves a trail of chaos in her wake. Suddenly, she's outwitting teachers, tricking classmates, and dragging a delighted Beetlejuice into her whirlwind of mischief. Even he's taken aback as she races past his usual antics, causing mayhem with a reckless edge that feels strangely unfamiliar. At the same time, Claire Brewster is busy campaigning for student body president, loudly declaring victory long before the ballots are even printed. Lydia, unimpressed and disinterested, refuses to get involved, but Beetlejuice has other ideas. Sensing an opportunity for some fun, he creates a new identity, Betty Juice, a bubbly, over-the-top candidate who quickly captures the student body's attention. With parody ads and outrageous promises, Betty Juice throws the election into disarray. As Lydia's flipped personality spirals and the school election devolves into a circus, loyalties blur and nothing goes as expected. Claire's once sure victory crumbles beneath a wave of magical meddling and reversed roles. Eventually, the cologne's effects wear off, but the fallout lingers. Lydia returns to herself with a jolt. The student body is left baffled, and Claire is furious. Though order is mostly restored, Beetlejuice grins knowingly, his prank pulled off with flying colours, and Peaceful Pines High turned upside down, if only for a little while.
You got that right.
Episode 7. Beetlejuice's latest prank, launching a giant inflatable bone at Poopsie, backfires spectacularly when it crashes into the monster across the street's home, blowing the whole place to bits. Now homeless, the monster and Poopsie show up at Beetlejuice's doorstep. With Jax and Ginger threatening to expose his stunt unless he helps, Beetlejuice is forced to take them in. The monster's messy habits, loud chewing, and total disregard for personal space drive Beetlejuice up the wall. Desperate to reclaim his roach-infested peace and quiet, he attempts to rebuild the monster's home. But just as it's ready, the monster decides he'd rather hang out at the roadhouse, crashing with friends in eternal party mode. It's Lydia who points out the real issue. The monster and Poopsie aren't after shelter. They're just lonely. Taking the hint, Beetlejuice springs into action in his own twisted way, playing matchmaker. With a little scheming and a lot of chaos, he pairs the monster and Poopsie with their counterparts, the monstress and Poopette. Suddenly, love is in the air, or something like it, and the awkward pairings turn out to be a perfect fit. Meanwhile, when Doomy mysteriously vanishes, Beetlejuice transforms into Sherlock Holmes, the neither-world's most ridiculous detective. Armed with a deerstalker hat and wild hunches, he drags Lydia through foggy back alleys and baffling leads. The case climaxes at the roadhouse, where Doomy is found, safe and sound. It's a messy victory, but somehow a successful one. Episode 8. Beetlejuice launches his own Twisted Kids show, Uncle BJ's Roadhouse, a warped parody of Pee-wee's Playhouse complete with offbeat segments, wild stunts, and his sarcastic doll sidekick, Ginger. With juggling acts, straitjacket escapes, and magic tricks, the neither-world audience is hooked, until Ginger has enough of playing second fiddle. Tired of being upstaged, she quietly sabotages the show, swapping props with snakes and glue, throwing Beetlejuice's act into chaos. When he attempts a flashy disappearing trick, Ginger locks him in the magic box and declares herself the new star of the show. Just as she prepares to banish him for good, a conveniently timed commercial break gives Beetlejuice the moment he needs to grab the wand and zap Ginger back into her doll form. The show resumes, sort of, with Beetlejuice making a half-hearted apology, only for Ginger to bite him in revenge. Curtain down, chaos intact.
Beetlejuice!
Hey! He's going!
Meanwhile, Beetlejuice takes a rare stab at honest work, accepting a job as a scarecrow on a beetle farm. Bored and unmotivated at first, he slacks off until the crows grow bold and start devouring the maturing larvae. Forced to take things seriously, he cobbles together a wild routine of scare tactics, using his signature magic to frighten the pests in spectacular style. The beetles and their grateful farm manager are thrilled, and Beetlejuice, worn out but smug, learns a fleeting lesson about hard work just in time to quit. Elsewhere, Lydia's busy with a photo assignment, leaving Charles feeling forgotten. Beetlejuice, sensing opportunity, morphs into cousin BJ and becomes the son Charles never had, coaxing him into goofy bonding adventures. When Lydia returns, she finds her dad wrapped up in BJ's antics. With her quiet push, Beetlejuice confesses the con, and father and daughter reconnect. BJ exits with flair, his work questionably done. Season 3, 1991, Episode 1. When Lydia accidentally transforms Beetlejuice into a scruffy, slobbering dog, chaos is quick to follow. Before she can reverse the spell, he's spotted by the Neitherworld dog catcher, who's thrilled to snag such a unique specimen. Beetlejuice narrowly escapes the pound, but remains stuck in his canine form, complete with fur, fleas, and a dangerously wagging tail. Back in the real world, Delia Dietz stumbles upon the odd-looking stray and is instantly smitten. Having long yearned for a dog, despite Charles's notorious allergies, she sees this as fate and takes him in, promptly renaming him Odious. Mortified but unable to reveal his identity, Beetlejuice endures belly rubs, chew toys, and humiliating obedience lessons. But Delia's love has limits. When she hauls out a tub for bath time, Beetlejuice panics. Soapy water is one torment too many. He bolts, bounding through the house in a slippery, shampoo-slicked mess. Lydia, amused but sympathetic, convinces him to stay in dog form just long enough for Delia's patience to snap. It doesn't take long. Between the muddy paw prints, endless barking, and mysterious floating furniture, courtesy of a few magical slip-ups, Delia soon declares odious, too much to handle, and tearfully sets him loose. As soon as he's alone, Beetlejuice sheds the dog disguise with glee, collar flung aside, fur vanished, and spirit restored. Reunited with Lydia, he revels in being his ghoulish, unwashed self once more, already plotting his next bit of mayhem. Peace and order, once again, don't stand a chance.
See?
Episode 2. Beetlejuice's beloved license to drive people crazy is abruptly suspended when a sharp-eyed, Neitherworld truant officer uncovers a glaring oversight. He never finished kindergarten. Outraged but cornered, Beetlejuice is forced to re-enroll in Neitherworld kindergarten to earn back his mischief-making privileges. Meanwhile, Lydia, enjoying a surprise snow day, thanks to some ghostly meddling, is roped into helping him navigate his academic do-over. Appointed his unofficial tutor, she finds herself guiding Beetlejuice through finger painting, nap-time politics, and spelling drills, all alongside a classroom full of gleeful juvenile monsters. Beetlejuice flounders at first, tripping over lessons and his own ego. His antics land him in trouble with a no-nonsense teacher, and his classmates are quick to mock his struggles. But with Lydia's steady encouragement, he begins to buckle down in his own peculiar way, even devouring entire books to absorb knowledge. Surprisingly, his chaotic approach works. He breezes through the final test and narrowly wins the smelling bee, earning praise from his once doubtful teacher. At the episode's end, Beetlejuice is gleeful as he reclaims his precious license, grinning ear to ear and more than ready to unleash mayhem once again, now with a gold star to prove he's qualified. Episode 3. Doomy, the happy-go-lucky orphan of the Neitherworld, finds himself smitten, not with another ghoul, but with the mayor's dazzling pink convertible, affectionately known as Pinky. Captivated by her glossy paint, glittering hubcaps, and radiant charm, Doomy becomes convinced the car shares his feelings. He confides in Lydia, who, while surprised, gently supports his unusual infatuation. Beetlejuice, on the other hand, finds the whole situation ridiculous. Mayor Maynot is equally outraged, calling the notion absurd and forbidding any further interaction with the prized vehicle. But Doomy remains undeterred. With wide-eyed sincerity, he sets out to win Pinky's heart, offering handmade gifts, love notes, and even heartfelt poetry, hoping against hope to spark something real. His earnest devotion tugs at Lydia's heart and even softens Beetlejuice's. In a rare moment of teamwork, they combine their magical talents to grant Pinky temporary life. The spell works, and for one gleaming, unforgettable ride, Pinky responds with a spark of affection. As the magic fades, Pinky returns to being just a car, but Doomy is left glowing. His dream, however fleeting, came true. It's not the ending anyone expected, but for Doomy, it's a memory that shimmers like chrome, proof that even the strangest love deserves a moment to shine. Episode 4. When Delia hosts one of her eccentric seances in a bid to connect with the creative beyond, she gets more than she bargained for, accidentally summoning Boris Todoff, Lydia's long-admired and very deceased favourite actor. Lydia is overjoyed to meet her idol, swept up in his dramatic flair and mysterious charm. But Beetlejuice, immediately suspicious, senses something rotten beneath the theatrics. Boris, it turns out, isn't back for autographs. He harbours a sinister agenda: evict the Dietz family and reclaim the house for his own ghostly pursuits. As Lydia grows starry-eyed, Beetlejuice scrambles to uncover and derail Boris's plot. Armed with pranks, illusions, and his usual flair for mischief, Beetlejuice stages a series of increasingly bizarre interventions. His antics grow wilder and more theatrical, matching Boris scene for scene, until finally exposing the actor's selfish motives. The spell breaks. Lydia, disillusioned but not defeated, sees Boris for who he really is. With a final flourish, Boris is banished back to the Neitherworld, his dreams of undead stardom crushed. Lydia is left a little wiser, the Dietzes a lot safer, and Delia, undeterred, already planning her next seance. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice basks in the chaotic calm, triumphant as the unlikeliest hero of the day.
Life is a meaningless misery.
Episode 5. Lydia, deep into a science report on amoebas, asks Beetlejuice to make things a little more exciting. Never one to pass up a chance for chaos, he shrinks himself down and dives headfirst into a microscopic world. But one small amoeba-level mishap later, Beetlejuice accidentally splits into 2 clones. At first, Lydia finds the double trouble amusing. Twice the Beetlejuice means twice the weirdness. But it doesn't take long before the clones launch into a full-blown sibling rivalry. They pester Lydia, constantly one-upping each other, and even get into outrageous arguments with themselves. It turns out, even Beetlejuice can't stand himself. Eventually, the only way to restore the peace is for the 2 egos to reconcile and recombine before things spiral completely out of control. Meanwhile, back in the Neitherworld, everyone is obsessively collecting silly little trophies for everything from loudest sneeze to best eyeball juggling. Feeling left out, Beetlejuice becomes fixated on winning an award of his own. He throws himself into a series of ridiculous competitions, racking up meaningless titles and novelty ribbons. But the more accolades he earns, the more empty it all feels. None of it really matters. Then, instead of chasing one more hollow prize, he decides to create something with real heart, a handmade award for Lydia, celebrating her brilliance and creativity. She loves it, and in that moment, Beetlejuice realizes that the best rewards aren't about public praise. They're about making someone you care about feel truly seen. Episode 6. Prince Vince, desperate for adoration, decides to reinvent himself as a rock and roll sensation, hoping to capture the hearts of the Neitherworld. But there's one problem. His music is unbearably gloomy. Instead of sparking excitement, his songs plunge listeners into deep, dreary funks. Wanting to spare his feelings, Lydia offers polite praise, insisting she loves his haunting tunes. Encouraged, Vince launches an endless tour across the Neitherworld, spreading his melancholic melodies far and wide. As the days drag on, the mood everywhere darkens, shadows lengthen, spirits sag, and even the usual weirdness of the Neitherworld feels muted. Lydia, caught in her well-meaning lie, watches as Vince's sad songs take a toll on everyone. She knows she has to say something, but struggles with how to tell him the truth without crushing him. Beetlejuice, naturally, gets involved, his chaotic presence only intensifying the drama. But in his own strange way, he helps Lydia find the courage to be honest. When she finally speaks up, Vince is crushed but grateful. He reworks his act, blending sincerity with style, and the gloom lifts. Eventually, Vince learns that real connection comes not from flattery, but from truth and a little tune-up. Episode 7. Beetlejuice hits the jackpot in the Neitherworld sweepstakes, thrilled to suddenly be rolling in riches. But there's a catch. If he ever juices anyone again, his signature chaotic mischief, he loses it all. At first, the luxury is intoxicating. He bathes in treasure, lounges in style, and basks in attention. But it doesn't take long before the shine wears off. Denied his favourite pranks and troublemaking, Beetlejuice grows restless and glum. The Neitherworld feels dull without his signature brand of chaos. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Lydia, Bertha, and Prudence form a school rock band with Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice's over-the-top band persona. They call themselves the Brides of Funkenstein and are thrilled to be chosen to play at the school dance. Their main rival, Claire Brewster, and her polished group, the Clarinettes. Claire, furious at being upstaged, sets out to sabotage their performance. As the dance approaches, the brides face setbacks and stumbles, some made worse by Beetlejuice's well-meaning but unpredictable help. Still, they stick together and keep practicing. Claire's underhanded antics nearly derail everything, but the girls push through. In a triumphant final act, the Brides of Funkenstein deliver an energetic, crowd-pleasing performance that brings down the house. Beetlejuice, watching the joy he helped spark, decides to give up his winnings to bring the fun back for his friends and himself. In the end, mischief makes its grand return. Friendship wins out over jealousy, and the power of rock and roll steals the show. Episode 8. Ramon, the Dietz's energetic new neighbour, quickly becomes fixated on Beetlejuice, idolising his wild behaviour and over-the-top antics. Thrilled to have a fan, Beetlejuice laps it up, encouraging the boy to mimic his every move. But without any supernatural powers to back him up, Ramon's attempts at chaos quickly go awry. His pranks misfire, causing real-world messes and leaving the Dietz's exasperated. What starts as playful fun soon turns into a headache for everyone involved. Recognising that things have gone too far, Lydia steps in. She gently encourages Beetlejuice to help Ramon tone it down, not squash his spirit, but guide it. Beetlejuice reluctantly agrees, learning to mentor rather than mislead. With a little effort, Ramon finds his own brand of harmless mischief, more grounded and creative, while Beetlejuice discovers that being a role model doesn't have to mean being boring. Peace is restored, and both Ghost and Kid walk away a little wiser about the power and consequences of their antics. Later, Lydia joins Beetlejuice on a trip to her Aunt May and Uncle Clyde's farm, hoping for a relaxing country escape. Beetlejuice, never one for peace and quiet, insists on coming along as Mr. Beetleman, ready for fun. Instead, he's met with early mornings, muddy stalls, and a mountain of chores. While Lydia settles into the slow rhythm of farm life, Beetlejuice grows restless, until a prank involving a runaway pig goes hilariously wrong. In the aftermath, he learns that even mischief needs balance, and that sometimes good old-fashioned hard work is the real adventure. Season 4, 1991. Episode 1. Beetlejuice kicks off a wildly unpredictable Neitherworld talk show, Your History, where resurrected historical icons, Abraham Lincoln, Elvis Presley, Marie Antoinette, and more, debate hilariously offbeat modern topics in front of a live audience. The show's premise is pure chaos. Powdered wigs clash with sequins, Honest Abe argues pop culture, and Elvis can't stop crooning over climate change. Just as things start to spiral in the best possible way, trouble arrives in the form of stuffy network executive Mr. Monitor. Mid-broadcast, He demands a full retooling to appeal to a broader demographic. Out go the spirited debates, in come drab infographics, and a painfully scripted format. The guests, already confused by the 21st century, aren't having it. Tensions boil over when Marie Antoinette misinterprets the rebranding as a coup. In seconds, the studio erupts into a no-holds-barred food fight. Jelly donuts flying, powdered wigs askew, and Lincoln using his stovepipe hat as a shield. Beetlejuice revels in the bedlam, mugging for the camera, until Lydia jumps in to salvage what's left of the show's reputation and the guests' dignity.
Hey! Keep your muscles off my star skeleton, you bicep-brained beefcake!
Episode 2. Jacques, Beetlejuice's skeletal sidekick with dreams bigger than his biceps, signs up for the Neitherworld's flashiest event, the neon-drenched Mr. Neitherworld bodybuilding contest. Determined to flex his way to fame, Jacques recruits Beetlejuice as his over-the-top manager. Naturally, Beetlejuice dives in head first, whipping up questionable protein shakes, designing eccentric workout gear, and shouting pep talks that make more noise than sense. Jacques trains with gusto, but there's just one problem. He's all bones and zero bulk. Things get tougher when he meets the reigning champ, Armhold Muscle Hugger, a comically overinflated parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger with muscles stacked like haunted house bricks. Next to him, Jacques looks like a walking X-ray. As the contest heats up, Beetlejuice's unorthodox training methods, think ghostly resistance bands and haunted hot yoga, do little to bridge the size gap. Yet, Jacques keeps pushing, fueled more by spirit than strength. In the climactic showdown, he strikes a pose so confidently absurd, it earns laughs, gasps, and, surprisingly, a few cheers. Though he doesn't win the trophy, Jacques gains something better: respect from Armhold, the audience, and himself. The contest ends not with a flex, but with a fist bump, proving that strength comes in many forms, especially when you're held together by bones, bravado, and a best friend like Beetlejuice. Episode 3. Beetlejuice has always been quick on his feet, literally. He's made a career out of using them for over-the-top pranks, gags, and slapstick stunts without ever giving them a second thought. But after one too many kick-based antics, his long-neglected feet, Lefty and Righty, decide they've had enough. In a bold act of rebellion, they detach themselves and stomp off, leaving Beetlejuice footless and flailing. Suddenly grounded in the worst way, Beetlejuice is forced to hobble through his day as the rest of him tries to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, Lefty and Righty embark on their own wild adventure through peaceful pines, turning the quiet town upside down. From tripping tourists to moonwalking through the mayor's garden party, the feet leave a trail of chaotic comedy in their wake. Desperate to reclaim his full prankster potential, Beetlejuice sets off in hot, lukewarm pursuit. Along the way, he's forced to confront how he's taken his body and its parts for granted. In the end, it'll take more than just tricks to convince Lefty and Righty to return. It takes respect, a little humility, and the promise of comfier shoes. Episode 4. Beetlejuice and Lydia cook up a bold new idea. Frankenburgers, a delightfully weird, neither-world burger stand serving monstrous meals with a side of mayhem. Business booms thanks to their creepy cute charm and bizarre but tasty creations. But success attracts attention, specifically from Scuzzo the Clown, who pops up right across the street with his own competing joint, Clown Burgers. Both sides pull out every outrageous trick in the book, talking billboards, haunted mascots, glow-in-the-dark buns, and burgers that bite back. Customers line up not just for food, but for the wild show. As the rivalry escalates, burger wrappers and condiments fly, and Peaceful Pines finds itself caught in the crossfire of mustard missiles and pickled pandemonium. The chaos spills into the Neitherworld, dragging in curious creatures and confused customers. The final showdown? A no-holds-barred burger battle royale in the kitchen, where flipping patties becomes a full-contact sport. Finally, Lydia and Beetlejuice realise that fighting fire with fire only burns everyone out. Teaming up again, they combine their best ideas into a new shared venture, quirky, collaborative, and just weird enough to work. In this greasy, goofy war, friendship proves to be the real secret sauce.
Quick, Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice, yank his spark plugs!
Episode 5. Beetlejuice, fed up with Doomy's overly sweet and polite personality, decides he needs a ride with more edge. Craving something fiercer, he heads to the long-abandoned, deserted Neitherworld Auto Factory and builds Roadhog, a snarling, smoke-belching motorcycle made to intimidate. It's loud, mean, and everything Doomy isn't. But Beetlejuice gets more than he bargained for. Once Roadhog hits the road, it doesn't stop. Worse, it spawns a gang of like-minded mutant bikes that rip through the Neitherworld and even peaceful Pines, causing chaos wherever they go. Beetlejuice is thrilled at first, until things spin wildly out of control. As the rogue bikes wreak havoc, it's clear only one vehicle can stop them. Doomy, despite being overlooked and underestimated, the gentle-hearted car rolls into action. Using patience, bravery, and an unwavering sense of kindness, Doomy faces down Roadhog's gang and brings the menace to a screeching halt, not with force, but with empathy. Seeing Doomy's quiet strength in action, Beetlejuice is forced to admit he got it wrong. Toughness isn't about being loud or scary, it's about heart. In the end, he scraps Roadhog and proudly returns to riding with his true friend, realizing that real power often comes with a gentle touch.
Furball, I hate to give you the brush off, but we gotta get going. Huh? Whoa!
Episode 6. Delia Dietz, ever devoted to her avant-garde art, finds herself the target of ridicule in Peaceful Pines. Stung by the mockery, she retreats from public life, hiding away her sculptures and swearing off exhibitions altogether. Concerned, Lydia enlists Beetlejuice to help lift Delia's spirits, and the pair whisk her away to a surreal artist colony deep in the Neitherworld. There, Delia's eccentric style is not just accepted, it's celebrated. Inspired by the bizarre surroundings and the colony's unfiltered enthusiasm, her creativity explodes. But as the praise mounts, so does her ego. Her work grows increasingly strange and untethered, pushing boundaries until it begins to take on a life of its own, literally. Soon, her sentient installations start spilling out of the colony, threatening to engulf both the Neitherworld and the mortal realm in chaos. Realizing things have gone too far, Beetlejuice intervenes, helping Delia rein in her runaway imagination. With Lydia's gentle guidance, Delia comes to understand that art doesn't need to scream to be heard. It can resonate just as powerfully in quiet confidence. Eventually, Delia returns to Peaceful Pines with a renewed sense of purpose. She finds pride not in shocking others, but in expressing herself authentically, creating for the joy of it rather than the applause.
Ooh. Hey! Give us our house back! The bones is
Episode 7. When a snobbish and newly rich couple moves in next door and transforms Beetlejuice's beloved roadhouse into a polished, pretentious lounge, the ghost with the most feels personally attacked. They flaunt their upscale lifestyle, one-upping him with every flashy purchase: crystal chandeliers, lava fountains, even a haunted hot tub. Beetlejuice, not one to be outdone, whips out his brand new monster charge card and dives headfirst into a spending spree. Soon, he's buying a mansion-sized crypt, glowing gadgets, and lavish accessories meant to impress the Neitherworld elite. At first, it works. He turns heads and raises eyebrows, but the shine quickly fades as the bills pile up and the trappings of wealth take over his life. The monster charge card gains a sinister life of its own, dragging Beetlejuice deeper into debt and disaster. As his world teeters on the brink of foreclosure, both literally and figuratively, he realizes that chasing status has cost him more than money. With Lydia's steadying presence, Beetlejuice finally cuts up the card, evicts the debt monster, and clears the clutter. Returning to his offbeat, budget-friendly charm, he rediscovers what made the Roadhouse special in the first place: heart, weirdness, and authenticity. As for Beetlejuice, he learns that being himself is worth more than all the gold-plated coffins in the world. Episode 8. A magical mishap swaps Beetlejuice's brain with that of Scuzzo, the ghost clown, leaving Scuzzo's mind bumbling around inside Beetlejuice's body, while Beetlejuice finds himself trapped in Scuzzo's rubbery, red-nosed form. The result? Instant chaos. Scuzzo, overwhelmed by the demands of Beetlejuice's manic energy and reputation, flails at pretending to be the ghost with the most. His attempts at mischief are clumsy, his pranks misfiring in awkward, unfunny bursts. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice, gleefully unbound by Scuzzo's body, goes on a full-throttle prank rampage. Seizing the opportunity, he plots to dethrone the Neitherworld's top tricksters and crown himself supreme prank king. As the mayhem spreads, both realms feel the ripple effects. The roadhouse descends into disarray, Lydia scrambles to make sense of the confusion, and neither the Neitherworld nor the mortal world is safe from misplaced whoopee cushions and spontaneous pie storms. Eventually, the chaos forces a reckoning. Through a mishmash of magic, effort, and sheer desperation, the brain swap is reversed. Beetlejuice, back in his own green-haired, striped-suited glory, is smug but satisfied. Scuzzo, thoroughly humbled, limps away with a new respect for the craft of mischief. In the end, Beetlejuice walks away with his body intact, his bragging rights secured, and the undeniable title of top prankster in the Neitherworld, at least until the next stunt. Episode 9. Beetlejuice's new plan takes off after Lydia is humiliated in gym class golf by her high-strung rival, Claire Brewster. Eager to even the score, Beetlejuice hatches a plan to level the playing field with a supernatural twist. He zaps both girls into a Neitherworld golf tournament where the rules are unpredictable and the greens are anything but ordinary. Things take a bizarre turn when Claire is magically transformed into the tournament's actual trophy, polished, posed, and completely stuck. To reverse the spell, Lydia must now play through the tournament and win. Teaming up with Beetlejuice, she faces a labyrinth of wacky holes, living sand traps, taunting caddies, and otherworldly hazards that defy gravity and logic. Beetlejuice, of course, treats the entire event like a prank playground, adding his usual flair to an already chaotic course. Lydia, frustrated but focused, learns to balance his antics with strategy, leaning into creativity and grit to keep them in the game. With each wild round, the odds stack higher, but so does their momentum. In the final stretch, they pull off an unexpected comeback, clinching the win and breaking the spell. Claire is restored, dazed but unharmed, and Lydia walks away with her pride intact. As for Beetlejuice, he soaks up the glory, another gloriously unhinged victory under his belt. Episode 10. In one of his more reckless stunts, Beetlejuice manages to get his head permanently stuck to the body of his gruff nemesis, the monster across the street. What starts as a simple prank gone wrong quickly turns into a full-blown identity crisis. Now sharing a single body, the two are forced into an uneasy partnership neither of them wants. Their awkward fusion becomes even more complicated when they're roped into attending a Neitherworld rodeo, or possibly a monster convention, where Beetlejuice is expected to perform, network, and show face. With clashing personalities, mismatched limbs, and a total lack of coordination, the duo stumbles through events with barely controlled chaos. Beetlejuice tries to maintain his charm and signature flair, while the monster grumbles through everything, from line dancing with ghouls to unintentional pie-eating contests. The result is a string of mishaps, mixed-up identities, and one embarrassing monster talent show. Despite the mayhem, Beetlejuice eventually embraces the absurdity and uses his quick wits to engineer a wild escape. With one final twist of magic and mischief, he frees his head from the monster's body and returns to his usual stripes and swagger. The monster is left fuming but grounded once again, while Beetlejuice walks away grinning, head firmly back where it belongs. Episode 11. Lydia is having one of those days where she feels completely out of place, self-conscious about her looks and unsure of herself. But things take a strange turn when she's suddenly kidnapped by a massive, melancholy creature from the Neitherworld named Thing Thong. Gentle but misunderstood, Thing Thong collects beautiful things in a quiet cave sanctuary, believing he's too ugly to be loved or seen. He treats Lydia like a cherished treasure, placing her among his collection action with wide-eyed reverence. Though startled, Lydia soon realizes that Thing Thong isn't cruel, just lonely and convinced he can only admire beauty from afar. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice springs into action, donning his over-the-top adventurer persona, Grimdiana Bones. With dramatic flair and plenty of slapstick mayhem, he navigates booby traps, enchanted mazes, and a cave full of glittering oddities. Eventually, Beetlejuice crashes into the heart of the cave, managing to free Lydia with a mix of trickery and sheer absurdity. But the real turning point comes when Lydia helps Thing Thong see his own worth, not through looks, but kindness and uniqueness. The creature softens, letting them go and even waving them off as a friend. By the end, Lydia feels a little more comfortable in her own skin, and Thing Thong begins to feel the same. Episode 12. Under Delia's relentless encouragement, Lydia begrudgingly signs up for the happy-faced girls' cookie drive, a picture-perfect event full of forced smiles, sugary enthusiasm, and matching aprons. It's not exactly her scene, but she agrees to help out, hoping to fly under the radar. Beetlejuice, however, perks up when he hears how much money the bake sale rakes in. Never one to miss a scheme, he bolts to the Neither World and whips up his own ragtag troupe, the Sappy Face Ghouls. Armed with his own line of bizarre, otherworldly cookies, he brings them back to Peaceful Pines, eager to cash in on the craze. But true to Beetlejuice form, things quickly go sideways. His cookies are more than just strange, they're haunted. With every bite, they release eerie whispers, floating objects, and all kinds of creepy chaos. Customers scream, tables flip, a ghostly chorus starts singing in Latin. Soon, the bake sale teeters on the edge of disaster. Lydia and Beetlejuice must work together to rein in the cookie-induced hauntings before the whole event spirals into a supernatural mess. As haunted batter is banished and cookie tins are sealed shut, they manage to restore some semblance of order, though not before the bake sale's cookie empire crumbles in spectacular fashion. Episode 13. When the gloomy spirit of Edgar Allan Poe drifts into Beetlejuice's roadhouse, mourning his lost Lenore, Beetlejuice sees an opportunity. He offers Poe a room, for free, but only because the ghostly writer is loaded with otherworldly currency. It's easy money, or so Beetlejuice thinks. But things take a dark turn. Almost immediately, Beetlejuice begins slipping into Poe's haunting nightmares. Each night, he's chased by rapping ravens, trapped beneath swinging pendulums, and plunged into eerie masquerades echoing the masque of the Red Death. He finds himself buried alive more than once, and haunted by whispers of lost love. Lydia, concerned by Beetlejuice's exhaustion and increasingly erratic behaviour, steps in to help. Together, they navigate the tangled dreamscape of Poe's sorrow, decoding eerie symbols, confronting tragic memories, and piecing together fragments of his grief. As the nightmares deepen, a hidden clue emerges, a sign pointing toward Lenore's resting place, long lost to time. By facing the fears that have tormented Poe for centuries, they help him find closure. His spirit begins to lift, and with it, the nightmares fade. Finally, Beetlejuice gets what he truly wanted: a full night's sleep. No pendulums, no ravens, no poetic doom. Episode 14. Beetlejuice decides it's time for a new gig and reinvents himself as a grizzled private eye named Sham Spade, dragging Lydia along as his sharp-eyed sidekick, Ghoul Friday. Business is slow until an unusual case walks through the figurative door, a floating pair of disembodied ears, desperate to recover a long-lost family fortune. Intrigued and amused, the duo dives into the mystery, following a trail of bizarre clues through the foggy, dim-lit alleys of the Neither World. Nothing is what it seems. Muffled whispers follow them, ghostly echoes trail their every step, and suspicious characters seem to appear and vanish on cue. As their investigation deepens, they begin to unravel more than just a treasure hunt. Behind the ear's sorrow lies a tangled mess of inheritance disputes, spectral schemes, and greedy relatives willing to haunt or hex anyone in their way. Beetlejuice and Lydia must stay one step ahead of shadowy figures with shifting motives and slippery morals. With a blend of supernatural sleuthing, offbeat logic, and just enough luck, they outsmart the guilty parties and finally uncover the hidden stash. The ears are reunited with their long separated head, the fortune is returned, and Beetlejuice walks away with his well-earned cut, already eyeing his next noir adventure. Episode 15. Beetlejuice heads in for a routine physical, just another day in the Neitherworld. But things go haywire when his skeleton unexpectedly detaches itself and develops a personality of its own. Calling itself Beetlebones, the newly liberated skeleton adopts a snooty, high society attitude, trading Beetlejuice's usual chaos for smug sophistication. Before anyone can stop it, Beetlebones struts off into the Neitherworld, eager to live the refined afterlife it believes it deserves. Left literally spineless, Beetlejuice is forced to team up with Lydia and Jacques to get his body back before the notorious skeleton crew, a gang of opportunistic bone thieves, gets their hands on it. What follows is a madcap chase through spooky graveyards, haunted salons, and dusty crypts, with plenty of slapstick along the way. Faces pop out of rib cages, Jacques fumbles through his old dance routines, trying to wrangle runaway bones, and Beetlejuice suffers one humiliation after another without his bony backbone. Through teamwork, quick thinking, and a few ghostly tricks, they finally track down Beetlebones and convince it to reunite with its rightful body, just in time to dodge the skeleton crew. With everything back in place, more or less, Beetlejuice is whole again, even if he's still a little sore, and slightly more wary of medical appointments. Episode 16. Lydia is volunteering at a Save the Whales telethon, passionately taking calls and rallying support for the noble cause. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice, ever the opportunist, sees dollar signs and cooks up his own bizarre event. A Save the Smells telethon aimed at preserving the Neitherworld's most repulsive, long-forgotten odours, from century-old gym socks to odor zombie breath. Of course, his real goal is to rake in the donations. Enlisting the dubious help of Lipscomb, Beetlejuice kicks off the fundraiser with flair, rolling out increasingly absurd appeals and gag-worthy scent samples. The stunt quickly catches fire across the Neitherworld, drawing in curious and surprisingly generous donors. What starts as a sham gradually shifts, however, as Beetlejuice begins to take genuine pride in defending the foul fragrances that make his home so unique. But just as the telethon hits its stride, chaos erupts. The donation funds mysteriously vanish, and angry donors turn on Beetlejuice, accusing him of fraud. Public support crumbles, the press has a field day, and Lydia is caught in the fallout. With his reputation and the smells on the line, Beetlejuice scrambles to uncover what went wrong, set the record straight, and prove that sometimes even the stinkiest causes are worth saving. In the end, he learns that heart can come from the most unexpected places, even a pile of dirty socks. Episode 17. Beetlejuice enters the first Neitherworld beauty pageant lured by the glittering promise of the grand prize, a hefty ton-of-cash trophy. But his dreams are dashed when he's swiftly disqualified for not being a woman. Outraged, but undeterred, Beetlejuice decides to fight back in his own dramatic style. He launches a loud and theatrical Men Are Beautiful Too campaign, championing male charm and demanding equal recognition. Posters go up, parades are staged, and absurd beauty demonstrations follow. Yet, the movement fails to gain traction, drawing more laughter than support. Refusing to give up, Beetlejuice shifts gears and goes even bigger. Disgusting is beautiful too. He now celebrates the Neitherworld's weirdest, wildest, and most grotesque beings, redefining beauty as anything bizarre. Surprisingly, his new crusade catches on. Rules are scrapped, entry is open to all, and contestants of every shape, slime, and smell rush the stage. But with no structure, no judges, and no clear purpose, the pageant spirals into mayhem. Audiences flee, organisers give up, and the event collapses into utter chaos. Eventually, Beetlejuice realises that while inclusion is noble, throwing out every standard can leave nothing left to celebrate. Sometimes, meaning comes not from opening every door, but knowing why the door was there in the first place.
That log is going to hit us! Beetlejuice, what are you doing?
Saving the day, babes!
Episode 18. When a rainy day ruins everyone's plans, Beetlejuice decides to turn gloom into glee. He spirits Lydia, her mom Delia, and their friends, Bertha, Prudence, and the Happy Face Girls, away to Grizzly World, the neither world's delightfully twisted answer to Disneyland. At first, the gang is intrigued by the offbeat attractions and oddball characters. Grizzly World promises thrills with a creepy twist, haunted log flumes, grotesque cotton candy, and souvenir shops selling shrunken heads. But things take a turn when they meet the park's smug mascot, Bartholomew Bat. Dressed to impress and full of himself, Bat promotes a polished, sanitized vision of fun that clashes with Beetlejuice's proudly messy style. The two square off in a turf war of glitz versus grime. As the rivalry intensifies, rides break down, animatronics revolt, and the park descends into chaos. Guests panic, the Happy Face Girls scatter, and even Delia's enthusiasm is dampened. In the midst of the madness, Beetlejuice pulls himself together and manages to restore order his way. He reboots the rides with added weirdness, rallies the park's strangest mascots, and shows everyone that true fun doesn't come from perfection, polish, or matching smiles. It's found in the strange, the silly, and the unexpected. Episode 19. Beetlejuice, Lydia, and Doomy stumble into Brinkadoom, a strange and shadowy village cursed to vanish whenever its residents fall asleep. The town only exists as long as its people stay awake, and now, with nightfall creeping in and the curse still looming, the trio suddenly finds themselves trapped. At first, the sleepy little village seems harmless enough, but as yawns spread and heads begin to nod, the danger becomes clear. If everyone dozes off, the town and anyone in it will disappear for good. Panic sets in as the villagers struggle to fight exhaustion. Beetlejuice, energized by the chaos, dives into action with his usual flair, summoning absurd distractions, conjuring ghostly spectacles, and unleashing one prank after another. Lydia, more thoughtful, connects with the townspeople on a personal level, encouraging them to stay strong and hold on just a little longer. Doomy races through the streets, sounding alarms and ferrying villagers to safety zones. Together, they pull out every trick to keep eyes open and spirits up. As the final minutes tick by, the town teeters on the edge of vanishing. In a tense, all-out push, the team manages to keep the villagers awake just long enough to break the curse. Brinkadoom is saved, and so are they, but no one's getting a nap anytime soon.
She'll ride with me.
Episode 20. When a gorgeous Scandinavian exchange student joins Miss Shannon's class, Claire Brewster's jealousy flares. Unable to stand the attention the newcomer receives, Claire lashes out with a humiliating prank that leaves the student shaken and embarrassed. Lydia is horrified by the cruelty, and even Beetlejuice agrees. It's time Claire got a taste of her own medicine. With a bit of ghostly scheming, they arrange for Claire to become a human exchange student in the neither world. Overnight, she finds herself enrolled in a school full of creepy creatures, beetle-infested classrooms, and undead classmates with strange habits and no patience for her attitude. Claire, so used to being on top, quickly becomes the outsider. Struggling to fit in, she faces mockery, confusion, and an overwhelming wave of homesickness. The jokes she once found funny when aimed at others now sting deeply. Slowly, the experience begins to shift her perspective. She sees firsthand what it feels like to be different, to be vulnerable, and to be treated with kindness or cruelty. By the time Claire returns to her own world, she's not the same girl who left. She's quieter, more thoughtful, and more aware of the power her words and actions carry. Her classmates notice, and for the first time, kindness takes center stage. Episode 21. Beetlejuice's parents, Nat and Bee Juice, are determined to join the exclusive society for the oldest and mouldiest families of the Neither World. There's just one problem. To qualify, they need to present the long-lost family coat of arms. Naturally, it was last seen somewhere in Beetlejuice's legendarily chaotic room, a place where even the bravest fear to tread. Eager to help, and slightly pressured, Beetlejuice ropes Lydia into a wild search mission. The two dive headfirst into the cluttered chaos of his room, battling rogue socks, animate junk piles, and all manner of misplaced monstrosities. When the coat of arms fails to turn up, the trail leads them to an even stranger destination, the world of Lost, a shifting dimension where misplaced items, and sometimes people, vanish into limbo. Their journey spirals into a whirlwind of supernatural mishaps and absurd detours, with every step more unpredictable than the last. Despite the madness, Beetlejuice and Lydia press on, facing bizarre obstacles with their usual mix of wit and resilience. In the end, they return victorious with the coat of arms and a renewed sense of connection to Beetlejuice's eccentric roots.
Don't call us and we won't call you!
Episode 22. Lydia is chosen to host her school's talent night. But instead of feeling excited, she's riddled with self-doubt, especially about being funny. Convinced she doesn't have the charm or comedic timing to pull it off, she confides in Beetlejuice. Wanting to help, he offers her his literal funny bone, a magical, mischievous relic responsible for his offbeat humour and boundless energy. At first, the results are amazing. With the bone in her possession, Lydia becomes a hit, effortlessly, cracking jokes and dazzling the crowd with unexpected flair. But back in the Neither World, Beetlejuice is a shadow of himself. Stripped of his funny bone, he's dull, morose, and oddly normal. Even worse, the bone itself refuses to behave. With a mind of its own, it begins causing chaos, determined to be the star of the show. As the night spirals into comedic bedlam, Lydia starts to realise something important. The laughs she earned didn't come from the bone. They came from her own courage and creativity. She no longer needs a crutch to shine. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice discovers he's lost more than just a piece of himself. He's let go of what makes him him. Soon enough, both friends learn that confidence and identity can't be borrowed. They have to be owned. Episode 23. Charles Dietz is long overdue for a vacation. Frazzled and stressed, he's desperate for a break. So Beetlejuice, in his alter ego Mr. Beetleman, sweeps the Dietz family away to Hotel Hello, a haunted resort tucked deep in the Neither World, with cobwebbed chandeliers, ghostly concierges, and plenty of eerie charm. It's far from ordinary, but it promises a change of pace. Unfortunately, Charles can't relax. His nerves get the better of him, and instead of unwinding, he spends most of the trip on edge. Meanwhile, Delia quickly becomes the centre of attention, especially for Count Mine, a suave and suspiciously pale vampire guest. Flattered at first, Delia soon realises the Count's interest is more sinister than social. When Count Mine attempts to bite her neck and later kidnaps her to complete the deed, Charles is forced to face his fears head-on. With Beetlejuice's spooky support and a well-timed vampire stake gag, Charles charges into action, determined to save his wife. Against all odds, he pulls it off. Delia is rescued, the Count is sent packing, and Charles finally uncovers a surprising reserve of bravery. Episode 24. In the Neither World, Good Neighbour Day is a dreaded holiday, one where being excessively nice isn't just encouraged, it's mandatory. Naturally, Beetlejuice wants nothing to do with it. While everyone else fake smiles through the day, he digs in his heels, refusing to play along. His defiance quickly draws the attention of Goody Two Shoes, an overzealous fairy from the Bureau of Sweetness and Prissiness. With a wave of her wand, she transforms the Neither World into a sugary, pestle-coloured paradise, complete with smiling mail carriers, perky theme songs, and eerily cheerful neighbours. Her mission? To scrub out every last bit of weirdness and whip the realm into a squeaky clean, Mr. Rogers-style utopia. Beetlejuice is horrified. Lydia tries to reason with Goody, but even she starts to feel the pressure of enforced positivity. As the citizens of the Neither World shuffle around in polite misery, it becomes clear something has to give. Banding together, Beetlejuice, Lydia, and a group of reluctant locals stage a dramatic and slightly ridiculous rebellion. Their goal isn't chaos for its own sake, it's to prove that individuality and a little mischief are just as valuable as niceness. Eventually, Goody's polished facade cracks, and the Neitherworld reclaims its gloriously weird identity, because a real community isn't about perfection, it's about being true to yourself. Episode 25. After a streak of video game victories, Lydia is feeling unstoppable, so Beetlejuice dares her to take on the ultimate challenge, Scourge, a notorious Neitherworld arcade game shrouded in warnings like play at your own risk, no refunds, and no loitering. Naturally, they ignore them all, but Scourge isn't just a game, it's a trap. Lydia is instantly pulled into the machine, vanishing into a glitchy, neon-lit digital realm. Without hesitation, Beetlejuice follows, only to find the stakes far higher than expected. Inside the game, they're up against brutal levels, bizarre opponents, and the sinister Scourge avatar itself. Even Deaddy Eddie, a ruthless player known for crushing competition, is out for blood, or at least high scores. Beetlejuice tries to fight back using his ghostly powers, but Scourge isn't playing fair. With a flicker of code, the game disables his abilities, leaving him powerless. Now, the only way out is to beat the game on its own terms. With quick thinking and teamwork, Lydia uncovers a hidden vulnerability, a virus glitch buried deep in the code. Exploiting it, they bring down Scourge from the inside. The game collapses, the machine explodes, and the two are ejected back into the real world, singed but victorious.
It's a total wreck. Well, now you ought to know I'm
Episode 26. Beetlejuice nabs a pair of cruise tickets by highly questionable means and spirits Lydia away on what's supposed to be a relaxing getaway. But once aboard the ship, it's clear this is no ordinary cruise. The ocean liner teems with ghostly passengers and cheeky nods to iconic nautical tales like The Love Boat, Poseidon Adventure, and Titanic, only with a ghoulish twist. At first, Lydia is cautiously optimistic. The salty sea air, the eerie yet charming decor, and the promise of adventure seem like a welcome change. But it doesn't take long for things to veer off course. Beetlejuice, naturally unable to resist stirring the pot, unleashes chaos at every turn. Haunted cabins with minds of their own, sudden spectral storms, and deckside shenanigans that turn supernatural fast. While Beetlejuice treats the voyage like one big undead amusement park, Lydia scrambles to maintain order, or at least stop the ship from becoming a total disaster zone. From cursed karaoke nights to vanishing Buffy lines and phantom lifeguards, every corner of the cruise is packed with hilariously spooky surprises. Episode 27. Beetlejuice forgets a half-eaten piece of chicken in his roadhouse fridge. No big deal for him, especially when he's more interested in munching on the bugs it attracts. But his laziness backfires spectacularly when the rotting leftovers take on a life of their own, returning as a vengeful poltergeist. What starts as a gross oversight quickly spirals into a full-blown haunting. This isn't just any ghost. It's a squawking, flapping, feathered menace with a bone to pick. The undead bird torments Beetlejuice night and day, rattling chains, pecking through walls, and generally driving him up the mildewed walls. Sleep-deprived and on edge, he turns to Lydia for help. Together, the duo tries everything to get rid of the pest. Banishing spells, ghost traps, even improvised chicken coops. Each attempt seems to work until the poltergeist inevitably clucks its way back, louder and more chaotic than before. The hauntings escalate with each return, pushing Beetlejuice to his limit and putting their friendship to the test. Finally, with a combination of Lydia's clever planning and Beetlejuice's begrudging cooperation, they outmaneuver the persistent polter chicken. Peace is restored to the roadhouse for now, but the fridge, Beetlejuice might think twice before letting leftovers rot again. Maybe, or maybe not.
recognize me, Jacques.
You You cannot pull the leg bone of Jacques Lallard.
Episode 28. Beetlejuice wakes up in an unshakable funk. His usual pranks flop, and even his closest friends barely crack a smile. Feeling invisible and fed up, he mutters that everything would be better if he'd never existed. That's when Clarence Sale appears, a quirky figure with a flair for dramatic timing, offering to show Beetlejuice exactly what that world would look like. In this alternate reality, things are off. Lydia drifts through her days, lonely and uninspired, her spark dimmed without her chaotic best friend. The Neither world, once buzzing with weirdness, is now eerily bland. Even the pranks are pitiful. Beetlejuice's absence has left a hole no one knew existed until it was gaping. As he witnesses the ripple effect of his non-existence, Beetlejuice begins to see the value in his mayhem. His messy charm, unpredictable antics, and strange sort of loyalty actually means something to Lydia, to the Neither world, and even to himself. With newfound clarity and a renewed flair for the dramatic, he snaps back to reality, embracing the role only he can play. Order is restored. Well, Beetlejuice-style order anyhow, and the spark returns to both worlds. And Clarence, for his celestial counselling, he drives off into the sunset in a shiny, over-the-top new car, grinning ear to ear.
I'll be riding on cloud 9. This sort of movie in the right literary.
Episode 29. When Beetlejuice catches wind of a rival Neitherworld author stealing the spotlight, he decides it's time to write his story. Bigger, bolder, and way more explosive. His autobiography hits the scene with a bang, turning him into an overnight literary sensation. There's just one problem. The book is full of wildly exaggerated tales and completely made-up facts about his friends. At first, Beetlejuice basks in the fame, but as the story spread, cracks began to show. Lydia is hurt by the falsehoods, and his other friends, both living and undead, feel betrayed. Worse yet, in the Neither world, even fiction has consequences. The tall tales take on a life of their own, triggering bizarre, literal hauntings based on the lies in the book. Suddenly, Beetlejuice is facing down creatures he invented, scandals he never actually caused, and friendships hanging by a thread. With his chaotic world unraveling, he has no choice but to take responsibility. With Lydia's reluctant support, he sets the record straight, retracts the lies, and learns the hard way that honesty isn't just a moral, it's a survival tactic in the Neither world. The autobiography may be off the shelves, but the lesson sticks. Even a ghost story is better when it's grounded in truth.
Great. Beetlejuice!
Episode 30. After curing Lydia's stubborn case of measles using a handful of bizarre and questionably effective Neitherworld remedies, Beetlejuice expects things to return to normal, but instead he finds himself mysteriously quarantined in the roadhouse, stuck inside with no way out and way too much energy. At first, he tries to play it cool, but cabin fever hits hard. With nothing but walls to bounce off of, Beetlejuice quickly spirals into full-blown stir-crazy chaos. Furniture gets rearranged mid-air, ghostly games go off the rails, and the roadhouse transforms into a madhouse of Beetlejuice brand mayhem. Lydia, now back on her feet, realizes her friend is teetering on the edge of total meltdown. Determined to help, she gets creative, leading him on surreal attic expeditions, crafting wild imaginary quests, and inventing distractions just weird enough to keep up with his unhinged energy. Together, their strange collaboration becomes a lifeline. Through makeshift adventures and bursts of laughter, they tame Beetlejuice's restlessness and remind each other how important connection and a little playful chaos can be. By the end of the ordeal, the roadhouse is a little messier, but the mood is lighter. The quarantine finally lifts, and Beetlejuice returns to form, less frazzled, a little more grateful, and happily reminded that even the most uncontainable spirits need good company.
We got it over.
Episode 31. While flipping through Beetlejuice's dusty old high school yearbook, Lydia is floored to discover that her ghostly best friend once held the title of Prom King. Shocked, and more than a little curious, she urges him to spill the details. Beetlejuice launches into a wildly exaggerated walk down memory lane, painting a picture of his teenage heyday that's equal parts absurd and nostalgic. According to him, his high school reign was the stuff of legend, complete with over-the-top pranks, bizarre popularity contests, and his most outrageous feat, building a prom date out of spare machine parts, duct tape, and a little supernatural flair. Of course, Beetlejuice insists his charm sealed the deal. What follows is a tongue-in-cheek spoof of every teen movie trope imaginable, from dramatic hallway confrontations to slow-motion dance floor reveals. Classic high school stereotypes get the Neitherworld treatment, with ghoulish jocks, undead cheerleaders, and a prom night that spirals into glorious chaos. Through Beetlejuice's kaleidoscope of tall tales, Lydia gets a hilariously warped glimpse into her friend's glory days. Episode 32. Lydia finds herself unexpectedly roped into coaching Team BJ, Beetlejuice's hopelessly unprepared squad at the Neitherworld All-Ghoul Games. The team is a mess, uncoordinated, distracted, and wildly unathletic, while their opponents are terrifyingly competitive. To make matters worse, Beetlejuice seems far more focused on selling cheesy merchandise with his face on it than actually winning anything. Frustrated but determined, Lydia takes charge, trying every motivational trick she can think of to whip the ghoul athletes into some semblance of shape. Training montages, pep talks, and even ghostly drills ensue, but progress is slow, especially with Beetlejuice constantly derailing her plans with his over-the-top antics. The games themselves are a chaotic parade of strange events, monstrous competitors, and ridiculous rules. With each round, Team BJ faces long odds, and the episode leans into every underdog sports movie cliché, from inspirational speeches to last-minute turnarounds, with a trademark Neitherworld twist. In the end, it's Lydia's persistence and Beetlejuice's wild, unpredictable energy that give the team just enough of a boost to pull off a surprising finish. The result is a gleeful parody of classic sports stories, equal parts absurd and heartfelt, where team spirit trumps talent and weirdness wins the day. Episode 33. Trouble brews in the Neitherworld when Mayor Maynot approves a massive superhighway project that threatens to demolish Beetlejuice and Lydia's peaceful roadhouse hangout. Outraged and determined to stop the destruction, Beetlejuice takes matters into his own hands by running for mayor. Against all odds, and with plenty of outrageous campaigning, he actually wins. At first, it seems like a victory, but power goes straight to Beetlejuice's head, and soon he's out-Maynotting Mayor Maynot, doling out bizarre laws, handing out favours to his ghoulish pals, and making a general mess of the town. As construction tears up the Neitherworld and chaos spreads, Lydia and their friends begin to realise Beetlejuice might be an even worse mayor than his predecessor. Desperate to save what's left of their community, the group springs into action. Using clever tricks and a few classic Neitherworld shenanigans, they launch a wild impeachment campaign to unseat their friend-turned-tyrant. In a fast-paced, satirical romp through spooky politics, full of mayhem, backfired schemes, and ghostly gaffes, the order is mostly restored, but with a little reminder to everyone that some ghouls are better off far away from public office. Episode 34. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Beetlejuice surprises Lydia with an unusual gift, a magical Neitherworld watch. But before she can even thank him, the watch sprouts wings and vanishes into the sky. Their chase to retrieve it hurls them into a series of surreal, time-warped landscapes where logic bends and nothing behaves as it should. Along the way, they encounter the eccentric grandfather time and a host of other oddities as time begins to unravel around them. Clocks tick in reverse, past and future collide, and the rules of reality twist into nonsense. With each misstep, they cause more chaos, turning the Neitherworld and even glimpses of Lydia's world into a whirlwind of scrambled events and distorted memories. Despite the madness, Lydia and Beetlejuice must rely on each other to piece time back together. Their journey is packed with frantic humour, whimsical visuals, and a few close calls. But through the absurdity, their bond only grows stronger. In the end, they manage to reset the flow of time just in time and pause to celebrate not just the day they met, but the strange, one-of-a-kind friendship they've built ever since. Episode 35. Lydia is stuck on an English paper about William Shakespeare, overwhelmed by themes, characters, and centuries-old language. Seeing her frustration, Beetlejuice decides to help in his usual over-the-top way by bringing the assignment to life. With a snap, they're whisked away to the Neitherworld, where Shakespeare's most iconic characters have taken on lives of their own. But instead of finding inspiration, Lydia is kidnapped by a group of disgruntled literary figures like Hamlet, Lady Macbeth, and others, who are tired of tragic endings and outdated roles. They demand she rewrite their stories to better suit their new, modern sensibilities. As chaos unfolds across shifting stages and theatrical backdrops, Beetlejuice jumps into rescue mode, navigating egos, sword fights, and endless soliloquies. Between Beetlejuice's mischief and Lydia's insight, they manage to strike a compromise that reimagines the classics while honouring their roots. Eventually, the duo even helps Shakespeare himself overcome a bout of writer's block, restoring order to the bard's bewildered world. With a mix of zany humour, theatrical puns, and literary twists, the episode turns academic stress into a wild, witty adventure and reaffirms Lydia and Beetlejuice's offbeat but unbreakable bond. Episode 36. Beetlejuice lands the lead role in a Neitherworld horror film as the menacing Mr. Beetleman and basks in his newfound fame. At first, he revels in the spotlight, signing autographs, soaking up attention, and hamming it up for the cameras. But the glamour quickly fades as endless retakes, demanding co-stars, and rigid schedules wear him down. His usual antics turn disruptive, frustrating the crew and stalling production. What once felt like a dream gig becomes a creative nightmare. When Beetlejuice finds himself trapped in a stifling contract, Lydia steps in with a bold plan. To get him fired, he must become the perfect professional, clean, courteous, and painfully well-behaved. It's a complete reversal of his chaotic nature, and it drives him up the wall. But the act works. With the original actor reinstated and his freedom restored, Beetlejuice realises that stardom isn't worth losing his wild, unfiltered self. Episode 37. Beetlejuice is thrown off balance when his younger brother, Donny Juice, drops in for a surprise visit. Unlike BJ, Donny is polished, polite, and effortlessly charming, and everyone loves him. The Neitherworld crowds flock to Donny, and even Lydia seems impressed. As Donny soaks up the attention, Beetlejuice feels increasingly overshadowed. Jealousy creeps in, and he sinks into a gloomy funk, convinced he's being replaced. In a desperate bid to win back the spotlight, he launches a series of wild, over-the-top pranks. But instead of earning laughs, his antics fall flat and only push people further away. Concerned he might spiral out of control, Lydia gently helps Beetlejuice confront the root of his insecurity. She reminds him of the value in being true to himself, messy, loud, and wonderfully unpredictable. With her support, Beetlejuice begins to see that he doesn't need to compete with Donny or anyone else. Being his weird, chaotic self is more than enough, and the people who matter know it too. Episode 38. Pranksgiving in the Neitherworld is a no-holds-barred spectacle, and Beetlejuice is determined to defend his prank crown. His slippery rival, Germs Ponscum, plays dirty from the first whoopee cushion. With a well-timed trick, Germs plants stolen gag gadgets in Beetlejuice's bag and shouts, "Thief," before the confetti even settles. Beetle is hauled before the Jokester Tribunal and sentenced to mandatory rehabilitation in the pastel nightmare known as Neitherland, where everything smells like cotton candy and rules are enforced with brutal cheerfulness. There, technicians of niceness scrub away his unruly spirit, rebranding him as Snugglejuice, a bow-tied cutie who says please and thank you, and prefers hugs to havoc. Lydia senses something is wrong when Beetlejuice stops causing trouble. Disguising herself in marshmallow pink attire, she infiltrates the cushioned compound, uncovers the saccharine brainwashing program, and recruits the erratic genius Dr. Frankenstein to reverse the process. A jolt of mischief shatters the facade, freeing Beetlejuice's true self just in time for a rematch. Chaos restored, he topples Germs' schemes and wins back the coveted prank crown to roaring applause from prank-loving spectators. Episode 39. When one of Beetlejuice and Lydia's harmless schemes goes sideways, it's Lydia who pays the price. Sentenced to scrub dishes at the dreaded last resort along the gloomy river Styx, Beetlejuice is horrified, not just by the punishment, but by the place itself. Determined to save Lydia, he rushes to the scene, only to find her stuck in a surreal nightmare of endless chores and terrible humour. The resort is a living pun, ghostly chickens cracking bad yolks, bellhops that never stop rhyming, and tasks designed to break even the most patient soul. But Beetlejuice, fueled by guilt and loyalty, dives in headfirst. Together, he and Lydia navigate the corny chaos, dodging pratfalls and groan-worthy gags. Through all the eye rolls and messes, their teamwork shines. Beetlejuice's unpredictable creativity and Lydia's grit help them escape and laugh through it. In the end, the experience deepens their bond, reminding them that even a disaster can become a shared joke between best friends. Episode 40. Beetlejuice's loathing of anything remotely healthy hits a new low when he secretly sprinkles Lydia's Caesar salad with a dash of his own bizarre seasoning, oregano. To his shock, the salad springs to life, mutates instantly, and declares itself supreme ruler of the Neither World. Armed with crouton-crushing strength and a band of angry, overcooked vegetables, the sentient Caesar begins its conquest, storming the 7 hills of aroma with frightening determination. The peaceful food realm descends into chaos as kale commandos and broccoli bruisers fall in line behind their leafy overlord, Beetlejuice, realizing too late that his culinary prank has spiraled wildly out of control. Teams up with Lydia to set things right. The two must track down the rightful rulers of aroma, an eccentric mix of ancient food deities and spoiled leftovers, to rally a resistance. What follows is a whirlwind parody of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, full of epic food fights, rebel recipes, and lessons about responsibility. As the day closes, Beetlejuice learns the hard way that even a joke salad can bite back, and that some meals should never be messed with. Episode 41. Lydia wishes aloud that Beetlejuice could teach her class for just one day, and naturally, he takes her up on it. Disguised as the eccentric Professor Beetleberg, he swoops into Miss Shannon's classroom. He whisks Lydia, Claire, Bertha, and Prudence away on a surprise field trip to the Neither World's very own history land. At first, it all seems like a spooky but entertaining lesson, Beetlejuice style, but things quickly spiral into chaos as he begins rewriting historical events with his usual flair for the bizarre. Pirates debate philosophy, mummies form a rock band, and Napoleon leads a conga line across a ghostly battlefield. History, it seems, has never been stranger or more unrecognizable. As the day unfolds, the students are swept through one outrageous historical lesson after another, each more twisted than the last. While the ride is wild, it also comes with an unexpected takeaway. By the end of the trip, the girls realize they've learned something truly important. When your teacher wears a striped suit and answers to Beetlejuice, always expect the unexpected, and maybe double-check your history book. Episode 42. When the monster and monstress from across the street have a dramatic falling out, their breakup sends ripples through the neighborhood. The once lively block suddenly feels tense and gloomy. Sensing an opportunity for mischief and a bit of entertainment, Beetlejuice hatches a plan. He turns their heartache into a full-blown mock reality TV show, casting himself as host and producer. With cameras rolling and chaos brewing, he pits the former couple against each other in outrageous challenges and over-the-top pranks, all designed to stir emotions and spike ratings. His not-so-secret hope that the monstress will get jealous, sparks will fly, and the couple will patch things up. But Beetlejuice's antics only make things worse. Instead of healing old wounds, they deepen them. Eventually, the drama spirals out of control, and it becomes clear that real feelings are at stake. The monster and monstress are eventually forced to confront what truly matters, away from the cameras and gimmicks. Later on, Beetlejuice learns a rare and humbling lesson. When it comes to love and heartbreak, messing around for laughs can cross a line, even in the Neither World. Episode 43. When Beetlejuice unexpectedly inherits Auntie M's old dairy farm in the Neitherworld's Wild West, he ropes Lydia and occasionally Doomy into helping him run the place. At first, it's all cows, cacti, and chaotic chores, with Beetlejuice doing more goofing off than actual farming. But things take a turn when outlaw Jesse Germs, an over-the-top parody of Jesse James, rides into town. With a cloud of dust and a flair for drama, Jesse scares the locals and sets his sights on taking over the farm. Suddenly, Beetlejuice finds himself facing a showdown he never signed up for. Determined not to lose the land, he shifts into full trickster mode, cooking up ghost-style traps and outlandish schemes to throw the outlaw off his game. What follows is a whirlwind of slapstick standoffs, dusty duels, and plenty of ridiculous detours. Through it all, Lydia helps keep things grounded, and together, they manage to outsmart Jesse Germs and chase him off for good. In the end, Beetlejuice walks away with more than just a victory. He gains a new respect for hard work, teamwork, and maybe even a little responsibility. Episode 44. Beetlejuice and Lydia decide to launch their own low-budget parody series, Disaster Piece Theatre, kicking things off with a delightfully absurd take on Moby Dick. Beetlejuice, of course, casts himself as the obsessive Captain Ahab, while an inflatable whale named Moby Richard is roped in as the reluctant star. But things quickly go sideways when Beetlejuice starts rewriting the story to suit his over-the-top style, adding dance numbers, exploding harpoons, and a ghostly subplot. The inflatable whale refuses to play along. Insulted, Moby Richard quits the show mid-rehearsal, calling Beetlejuice a hack and floating off in protest. Undeterred and fully channeling Ahab's mania, Beetlejuice drags Lydia and the stage crew on a ridiculous quest through Sandworm Land to hunt down the runaway whale. What starts as a goofy chase turns into a chaotic mess, complete with slapstick near misses, overly dramatic monologues, and unexpected sandworm encounters. Episode 45. Beetlejuice signs up for the legendary Neitherworld Baseball Showdown, determined to lead his chaotic underdog team to glory against Scuzo's smug and overconfident squad. At first, it's all fun and games, until a string of slapstick disasters knocks most of Beetlejuice's teammates out of the competition. Suddenly, it's down to just him and Lydia to finish the game. Instead of backing down, the pair leans into the challenge. Lydia brings sharp strategy and quick thinking, while Beetlejuice supplies his signature mayhem, pulling off ghostly tricks, bizarre plays, and rule-bending antics that keep the crowd guessing and Scuzzo on edge. The game builds to a tense, high-stakes finale, with sudden death rules looming. Against all odds, Lydia and Beetlejuice's unlikely teamwork nearly topples Scuzzo's winning streak. The crowd roars as the duo blends brains and chaos into a style all their own. Though victory hangs by a thread, the real win is clear. In a world obsessed with size and strength, spirit and creativity can still steal the show. And for Beetlejuice, that's more than enough reason to celebrate. Episode 46. When Beetlejuice is knocked senseless by a ricocheting satellite, he wakes up with a serious case of amnesia. He doesn't even recognize Lydia. Alarmed, she rushes him to the most questionable mind expert in the Neitherworld, Dr. Zygmunt Void. The eccentric shrink places Beetlejuice under hypnosis to recover his memories. But things go sideways. Instead of healing his mind, the session accidentally splits it in two, creating a bizarre, slightly more stable clone of Beetlejuice. With time running out, Lydia teams up with the clone for a surreal, microscopic submarine journey inside the real Beetlejuice's body. Navigating through his chaotic subconscious, they encounter disgusting detours, twisted dreamscapes, and the occasional booby-trapped brain wrinkle. The deeper they go, the weirder things get. But somewhere in the madness lies the memory vault holding the key to Beetlejuice's identity. As the hypnotic trance begins to unravel, Lydia and the clone must reach the vault and restore his memories before Beetlejuice is lost to his fractured self. The final challenge? Reintegrating the two minds and hoping that whatever emerges is still the Beetlejuice they know. Episode 47. Beetlejuice finds himself in deep trouble when Scuzzo frames him for stealing cheesy jokes, landing him in the big house, a zany netherworld prison with more quirks than rules. Behind bars, Beetlejuice is thrown into a world of bizarre inmates, grumpy talking guard dogs, and an overbearing warden named June Cleaver, who's determined to reform him with relentless cheer and forced life lessons. Meanwhile, Lydia refuses to believe her friend is guilty. She springs into action, hunting for clues and tracking down the real culprit. As she uncovers Scuzzo's scheme, she also faces the challenge of convincing a skeptical governor that Beetlejuice deserves a second chance. Her journey is filled with wild detours, uncooperative witnesses, and absurd legal red tape. But Lydia's sharp thinking and stubborn loyalty keep her going. Back at the prison, Beetlejuice struggles to keep his cool as the reform program spirals into absurdity. Just as things reach peak ridiculousness, Lydia bursts in with the proof, clearing his name and securing his release. Chaos is restored, justice is served, and Beetlejuice is back to his unruly, undead self. Episode 48. When Lydia hurts her ankle, after slipping on Beetlejuice's scattered marbles, he whisks her away to a Netherworld hospital, unfortunately one run by the infamously greedy Dr. Greenthorn. At first, the visit is full of harmless blunders and over-the-top medical antics. But things take a darker turn when the ambitious doctor hatches a twisted plan. Determined to boost his reputation, Dr. Greenthorn kidnaps Lydia and announces a high-profile total body transplant demonstration, roping Beetlejuice into performing the operation in front of a paying audience. Panicked but determined, Beetlejuice must navigate the hospital's wild maze of unhinged wards, sentient equipment, and eccentric patients. Using his wits and just enough restraint to avoid making things worse, he races against the clock to rescue Lydia before her life support runs out. In a climax of spooky chaos, Beetlejuice turns the tables on Dr. Greenthorn, foiling the showcase and escaping with Lydia in the nick of time. Once she's safe and recovering, Beetlejuice celebrates in his own mischievous way by gleefully scattering another round of marbles, setting the stage for his next prank. Episode 49. Beetlejuice dives headfirst into the latest Netherworld trend by reinventing himself as Ultra Beetleman, a caped and slightly clueless crusader with Lydia as his ever-loyal cub reporter sidekick. Wielding a cosmic socket wrench and belting out his catchphrase, Shazoom, at every turn, he's ready to fight crime and bask in heroic glory. There's just one snag. Most of the real villains have already been defeated, leaving Beetlejuice with a rogues gallery of bumbling, low-level crooks. Just as he begins to lose interest, a new threat emerges. 4 ruthless business tycoons with a flair for destruction and profit. These corporate baddies go on a spree, shrinking famous Netherworld landmarks like Mount Gushmore, Scumden Bridge, the fallen arches of Triumph, and even the Awful Tower. Things take a personal turn when they shrink Lydia too. Suddenly, Ultra Beetleman has a real mission. In true offbeat superhero fashion, he must unleash every oddball power in his toolkit to stop the villains, restore the landmarks, and bring Lydia back to size. Through absurd action and spooky flair, Beetlejuice finally earns his hero moment, at least by Netherworld standards. Episode 50. When Lydia's parents leave town, Grandma Dietz arrives to babysit, a decision Lydia meets with quiet dread. She tiptoes around her grandmother, treating her like a delicate relic in need of rest and quiet. But Grandma has other ideas. Offended by Lydia's cautious behaviour, she quickly proves she's far more energetic than anyone gave her credit for, especially after striking up an unexpected friendship with Beetlejuice, who disguises himself as the eccentric Grandpa Beetleman. Things take a turn when Grandma is enrolled in the painfully dull Happy Days senior camp. Bored out of her mind, she rallies the other residents and stages a full-blown escape. With Beetlejuice behind the wheel, literally and figuratively, they embark on a whirlwind Netherworld tour, packed with haunted hot rods, upside-down roller coasters, and every form of spooky mischief imaginable. When the gang returns, slightly singed but grinning, Grandma gently lays down the truth. Age doesn't equal fragility. Lydia, humbled and moved, realizes she's underestimated her grandmother's spark. She offers a sincere apology, and the two share a newfound respect, just as Beetlejuice slips Grandma another ride coupon. Episode 51. Beetlejuice finds himself reluctantly roped into entertaining the unruly, sappy-faced ghouls with bedtime stories. But there's a catch. They've heard every fairy tale in the book. Frustrated and desperate to keep them from turning the place upside down, BJ dives headfirst into a wildly improvised, macabre mashup of classic grim tales, blending the likes of Little Red Riding Hood, Goldilocks, Hansel and Gretel, and Humpty Dumpty into one twisted, chaotic narrative. Beetlejuice casts himself in every major role, dragging along Lydia, Flubbo, the monster, across the street, Poopsie, and arm-hold muscle hugger for the ride. With outrageous costumes and over-the-top antics, he transforms into Mother Beetlegoose, spoofing nursery rhymes and adding his signature neither-world flair to every scene. The tales spiral into absurdity, with bears, witches, and talking eggs all colliding in spectacularly messy fashion. To his surprise, the ghouls are riveted, laughing, gasping, and begging for more. Though it starts as a chore, Beetlejuice soon gets caught up in the fun, proving that when it comes to storytelling, no one outweirds the ghost with the most. Episode 52. During a dull tornado safety lesson, Lydia nods off and finds herself dreaming she's Dorothy, swept away to the bizarre and whimsical neither-world land of Ooze. As she follows a twisted Technicolor yellow brick road, she's joined by Beetlejuice as a hay-stuffed scarecrow, Jacques as a creaky bone woodsman, and the monster across the street as a timid, cowardly lion. Ginger tags along as a rather sassy Toto. Their path is guided by the eccentric fairy godmothers Bertha and Prudence. Though not without trouble, Claire Brewster, relishing her dream role, appears as a theatrically wicked witch, tossing magical threats and one-liners at every turn. Eventually, the group reaches the mysterious Wizard of Ooze, revealed to be none other than Barry Me Not. But instead of granting wishes, the not-so-great wizard turns petty, chasing them off in a fit of rage. In the end, Lydia realizes the truth. Her friends had heart and courage all along. As they celebrate, Beetlejuice sulks over being the only one left without a brain, though, in typical fashion, he doesn't seem to miss it much. Episode 53. Beetlejuice's show gets the axe after a steep ratings drop, courtesy of the ever-watchful Mr. Monitor. Meanwhile, Lydia's left, grimacing as she's offered a sugary children's show she never asked for. Determined to reclaim the spotlight, Beetlejuice takes a lowly job in the studio mailroom, only to stumble upon a goldmine, a shy co-worker's notebook filled with clever show ideas. Seizing the opportunity, he passes the pitches off as his own, impressing the higher-ups and rapidly climbing the ranks. In no time, Beetlejuice is calling the shots as Mr. Monitor's new supervisor, loving every second of his unexpected power trip. While he revels in his executive glory, Lydia struggles under the weight of her mismatched new role, forced to play along with squeaky clean scripts and forced cheer. As the studio buzzes with Beetlejuice's vision, cracks begin to show. The question isn't if Beetlejuice's borrowed brilliance will catch up to him, but when. Episode 54. Bored and channel surfing, Beetlejuice pauses when a flickering black and white sci-fi show, The Chromazone, fills the screen. Before he can change channels, phantom static reaches out and yanks him straight into the haunted television. Inside, he meets suave host Todd Sperling, a dead-on Rod Serling lookalike who confesses that his own character, the manic Ema Looney, has escaped her script and hijacked the broadcast. To set things right, Beetlejuice must stumble through a gauntlet of Twilight Zone-style vignettes, a diner frozen in endless midnight, a carnival with mirrors that show futures that never happen, a suburb where everyone speaks in reverse. Each segment warps reality and siphons a piece of his mind, leaving him increasingly scattered and dangerously close to total brain drain. Back in the real world, Lydia notices her friend's vacant stare on the couch and realizes he's trapped behind the glass. She scrambles to breach the chromazone before Beetlejuice's last marble rolls away. Episode 55. When the eccentric Captain Kidder washes ashore, raving about a 90-foot-tall singing and dancing ape on a remote ocean island, the news spreads like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone in the Neitherworld wants a piece of the action. Beetlejuice, of course, sees opportunity and springs into motion, dragging Lydia along with Jack, Ginger, the monster, across the street, and Poopsie. But they're not alone. May or may not, Mrs. Bugsley, Chester Slime, Armhold Muscle Hugger, and even Scuzzo and Fuzzo the Clown join the fray, each convinced they'll be the first to find the legendary creature. What follows is a wild, high-energy race to the island, packed with double crosses, trickery, and plenty of classic Neitherworld slapstick. Alliances form and fall apart in seconds as the motley crews pull every outrageous stunt they can think of to outwit the others. In the middle of it all, Beetlejuice pulls out every trick in his book, determined to come out on top. But as the chaos mounts, one question remains. Is the colossal ape real, or just another tall tale? Either way, the chase is pure Neitherworld madness. Episode 56. A mysterious and shadowy figure known only as Mr. Big recruits 4 of Beetlejuice's most notorious foes, along with the relentlessly annoying Lipscomb, for a single mission. Take down the ghost with the most once and for all. Their plan is simple but devastating. Using trickery and taunts, they lure Beetlejuice into saying the cursed phrase, "I'm coming apart at the seams." The words trigger a bizarre magical reaction, causing his body parts to scatter across the Neitherworld like puzzle pieces tossed in the wind. As the sun begins its slow descent, marking the deadline before Beetlejuice's powers fade and he risks permanent exorcism, Lydia springs into action. With no time to waste, she embarks on a frantic race through the weird and treacherous corners of the Neitherworld, determined to track down each of his missing limbs, organs, and extremities before it's too late. Every moment counts, and every delay pushes Beetlejuice closer to vanishing forever. Meanwhile, Mr. Monitor is glued to the action, broadcasting the chaos live in a spectacle of ghoulish glee, milking the drama for maximum ratings. As Lydia fights to piece her best friend back together, the villains celebrate their apparent victory, unaware that the bond between Beetlejuice and Lydia might be the wild card they didn't count on. Episode 57. Beetlejuice and his loyal pal Doomy cook up a new scheme, handing out fake driver's licenses to unsuspecting Neitherworld residents. But the plan quickly crashes and burns when they're caught in the act. As punishment, they're sentenced to traffic school, a bizarre and bewildering institution that's more punishment than education. Beetlejuice, never one for following rules, finds himself completely out of his element. The road signs make no sense. The vehicles have minds of their own, and the instructors are as eccentric as they are strict. Lydia, roped into the chaos despite her better judgment, ends up along for the ride, literally and figuratively, as Beetlejuice blunders his way through lessons, field tests, and a seemingly endless series of pop quizzes. Between haunted highways, undead pedestrians, and Beetlejuice's relentless attempts to bend the rules, the duo hurtles from one mishap to the next. Still, beneath all the smoke and screeching tyres, a lesson slowly starts to sink in. Beetlejuice begins to realise that shortcuts and tricks won't get him far when it comes to real responsibility. In the end, he manages to earn his licence, more or less honestly, but the true takeaway? Cutting corners might be his style, but behind the wheel, playing it straight is the only road to success. Episode 58. Beetlejuice, inspired by tales of legendary outlaws, takes on the role of Robin Hood in the twisted realm of Sherweird Forest. With a feathered cap and a flair for flair, he sets out to liberate riches from the forest's wealthy inhabitants, claiming it's all in the name of helping the downtrodden. But true to form, he quickly forgets the second half of the mission. Instead of sharing the loot, he stockpiles it for himself, turning Sherweird into his own personal treasure trove. Things take a turn when the cunning sheriff of Rottingham, with backup from the groan-worthy, pun-slinging Prince John Don Juan, catches wind of Beetlejuice's antics. To strike back, they capture Lydia, hoping to lure Beetlejuice into a trap and annoy her into submission with an endless stream of terrible wordplay. Realising he's in over his head and that Lydia's in real danger, Beetlejuice is forced to dig deep. he navigates the forest's eerie traps, outwits the sheriff's minions, and stages a wild rescue just in time to save Lydia and spare her from another pun. So, as for the day's lesson, Beetlejuice learns that being a hero takes more than a catchy costume and clever schemes. Sometimes it means putting others first, even when there's treasure on the line.
Your brother. Time to douse my extinguished colleague.
Episode 59. Beetlejuice is stunned to discover that his long-lost brother, Donnie, better known as Donnie Juice, has become the Neitherworld's most wanted criminal. His crime? Eco-terrorism, by way of planting trees across the barren landscape, turning the grim and gloomy into something dangerously green. With a massive bounty on Donnie's head, Beetlejuice sees dollar signs and jumps at the chance to cash in. Teaming up with grizzled bounty hunter Dead or Alive, BJ tracks Donnie down and even slaps on a pair of handcuffs himself, convinced he's about to score big. But things get complicated when a rival bounty hunter swoops in, determined to steal the reward. Caught in a race full of tricks, traps and wild chases, Beetlejuice must use every bit of his cunning to stay ahead. As the chaos unfolds, cracks start to show in Beetlejuice's resolve. Donnie's passion for re-greening the Neitherworld and his belief in doing something good, even if it's disruptive, starts to resonate. Faced with the final decision to turn his brother in or let him go, Beetlejuice hesitates. Ultimately, profit takes a backseat to family. Beetlejuice's zany plan might not make him rich, but it reveals a surprising glimpse of heart beneath the stripes, and maybe even a little respect for trees.
Doggy, I am not this so born.
Down, Fang! Heel!
Episode 60. When Beetlejuice is bitten by a literal gold bug, he's hit with a severe case of gold fever, an all-consuming obsession with glittering treasure that quickly starts to affect both his mind and body. Eyes wild and voice frantic, he's suddenly fixated on one thing: finding gold, no matter the cost. Concerned for his well-being, Lydia, Jacques, and Doomy step in to help before the fever burns out what little sense he has left. Their journey takes them to Gloomdyke, a frozen stretch of the Neitherworld known for its treacherous terrain and long-abandoned gold mines. It's the perfect place for a cure or a complete meltdown. Navigating icy caverns and unpredictable underground paths, the group tries to lead Beetlejuice to a gold strike in hopes that fulfilling the fever will break the spell. But things get tricky when a sly claim jumper appears, eager to snatch away Beetlejuice's prospect and leave them all empty-handed. With time running out and Beetlejuice slipping deeper into golden delusions, Lydia and the gang must outsmart the greedy intruder and push through the chaos. As they strike just enough gold to snap Beetlejuice out of his frenzy, the glitter fades, but the adventure leaves them all with a deeper appreciation for sanity over sparkle. Episode 61. Beetlejuice is summoned to handle a petty ant problem at the Dietz household, but in typical BJ fashion, things go spectacularly off the rails. Instead of getting rid of the insects, he accidentally transforms the ants into towering, overbearing aunts: Antipasto, antisocial, antiseptic, and the ever-sweet but sticky honey aunt. At first, the transformation seems like just another one of Beetlejuice's magical mishaps, but it quickly turns into a full-blown disaster. The giant aunts begin to meddle in every aspect of Beetlejuice and Lydia's lives, offering unhelpful advice, throwing impromptu parties, and generally leaving chaos in their wake. Whether it's redecorating the Neitherworld or organising Lydia's room with an industrial vacuum, the quartet's well-intentioned interference spirals into one outrageous predicament after another. As the aunt's antics escalate, Beetlejuice scrambles to reverse the spell before the situation draws too much attention, especially from his grumpy landlord, who's just looking for an excuse to kick him out. With time running out and the aunts growing bolder by the minute, BJ must find a way to send them packing and clean up the mess. After all, when you invite Beetlejuice to deal with a small problem, you can always count on him to make it bigger, literally.
Beetlejuice, do something!
Episode 62. Beetlejuice and Lydia journey to the mystical realm of Merlin, expecting a quirky, magical detour from the ordinary. But the fun quickly fades when the legendary wizard reveals a dark agenda. He plans to overthrow the king and seize the throne for himself. Things take an unexpected turn when Beetlejuice, by sheer accident, pulls the enchanted board from the bone, a legendary act that names him the new ruler of the realm. Thrilled at first by his sudden royal status, BJ revels in the perks of power, only to learn that ruling isn't all feasts and fanfare. The royal responsibilities pile up fast, and the kingdom is anything but cooperative. Sensing a threat to his plot, Merlin summons the dreaded B.O. Wolf, a ferocious enforcer tasked with eliminating the accidental monarch. As the court descends into magical mayhem and Beetlejuice's crown starts to literally melt from the pressure, he finds himself in over his head. Now, with the realm in chaos and Merlin's grip tightening, Beetlejuice must lean on Lydia and their neither-world allies to stop the power-hungry sorcerer, save the kingdom, and possibly survive his own reign. Because if there's one thing Beetlejuice knows for sure, he might wear the crown, but he's no King Arthur.
Give me a hole.
Episode 63. When Beetlejuice pokes fun at a mysterious cat burglar, he doesn't expect the joke to backfire. Literally, the thief swipes his tongue and vanishes with it to the elusive, feline-filled city of Kathmandu. Suddenly silenced, BJ finds himself facing his worst nightmare, a world where he can't speak, pun or prank. Desperate to get his voice back, Beetlejuice teams up with Jax and signs on with the elite Forlorn Legion, a ragtag group of adventurers known for tackling the Neitherworld's weirdest quests. Their journey winds through surreal, trap-laden landscapes and a series of encounters with cat-themed foes, each more bizarre and clever than the last. From hairball hazards to laser-pointer chases, the road to Kathmandu is anything but smooth. But Beetlejuice isn't about to let a missing tongue keep him down. In a wild showdown, he snatches back what's rightfully his and makes a grand comeback with a pun-packed victory speech that rocks the realm. With his voice restored and mischief mode fully reactivated, Beetlejuice brings his trademark chaos roaring back to the Neitherworld. But not having the last word, that is not something BJ can live without.
We had to outsmart him. Yeah, that's it.
Episode 64. Desperate to avoid his chores, Beetlejuice spins one of his signature tall tales for Lydia, an over-the-top adventure starring himself and his trusty pal, Jacques. According to BJ, the two set off on a daring quest deep into the heart of the Neitherworld. Their mission: rescue Vern Jules, an eccentric local legend who's been kidnapped by none other than the infamous Captain Nemo. But this isn't the seafaring villain of classic lore. This Nemo has a twisted new goal, reinventing himself as a heroic figure by staging elaborate rescues that he orchestrates himself. Unfortunately for Vern, he's the latest unwilling prop in Nemo's delusional rebranding. As the story goes, Beetlejuice and Jacques brave bizarre terrain, dodge ridiculous traps, and go toe-to-toe with Nemo's inflated ego. With a blend of wit, wild stunts, and plenty of ghostly hijinks, they manage to outsmart the would-be hero and free Vern, returning as reluctant saviours of the day. Lydia listens with a healthy mix of amusement and skepticism, unsure where truth ends and Beetlejuice's flair for fiction begins. But BJ doesn't mind. His tale has served its true purpose. Thanks to one wildly distracting adventure story, Beetlejuice is off the hook and still hasn't lifted a finger.
Permanently? You're just a case of arrested development.
Episode 65. When Beetlejuice lends a hand to Mayor Maynot of Peaceful Pines, he's only in it for the payday. But when the mayor backs out of the promised reward, BJ's temper hits a boiling point. In a fit of magical fury, he splits himself in two, literally creating Posyjuice, his overly chipper good side, and Negajuice, a gleefully destructive embodiment of his worst instincts. While Posyjuice attempts to keep things under control, Negajuice lets loose on the town, causing mayhem wherever he goes. From prank-filled parades to ghostly graffiti, it's total chaos, and Posyjuice is no match for his mischievous counterpart. Lydia quickly realises this isn't just Beetlejuice being Beetlejuice. It's a full-blown identity crisis. To stop the spiraling madness, she calls in Dr. Sigmund Void, an eccentric neither-world shrink with a knack for stitching up fractured minds. With Void's help, the two halves are forced to confront one another and fuse back into the one and only original. Order is restored, Peaceful Pines breathes a sigh of relief, and Beetlejuice, now whole again, is back to his usual self, unpredictable, incorrigible, and somehow still unpaid. Because when it comes to BJ, you never really know what you're getting, but splitting him in half definitely isn't the answer. Now that is an end to a 94-long episode show. Anyhow, I cannot decide what was more refreshing, a 90s patented girl protagonist or a quirky spectre as her friend. Well, at the time, critics were all ears for the show's unique humour, offbeat animation style, and the unexpected depth of Lydia and Beetlejuice's one-of-a-kind friendship. In fact, their bond was something that really took the cake. Most publications sang its praises for its clever writing and surreal world-building, while elders tipped their hats to its relatively tame, kid-friendly spin on Burton's dark universe. So, while Beetlejuice, the animated series, may have danced to its own tune with its source material, it pulled a rabbit out of the hat. It forged its own identity and flourished. More importantly, it hit the nail as one of the cream of the crop animated shows from the late 80s and early 90s. Even now, fans tip their hats to its legendary visuals, quick-witted humour, and its boldness in standing out, welcoming the quirky long before it was all the rage. So whether you were a die-hard fan from the get-go, or you're just now dipping your toes into the neither world, one thing's as plain as day. Beetlejuice still stands the test of time as a spooky, silly, and surprisingly sweet piece of animation history. Because let's be honest, or rather, let me be honest, there's just no spectre quite like Beetlejuice now, is there?